midday show. It's Sharif, it's Adara. Kill him with kindness.
What is up, beautiful people? Welcome to How to Trade, formerly known as the Midday Show. That is your girl, Dara. I'm Sharif. And as per usual, we're going to wait for everyone to head on over from the other stream, and then we'll do the shout out. We already have some people waiting in the chat. We got Bears versus Bulls, obviously. We got Big Nimit as well. What's up, my man? We'll be getting to those small caps quite soon. Benson Yang, what up? Yo. We got Roger, we got Mateus, we got Juan, we got Emma, Igor, Adam, Deleuze, Pitchbull, there we go, Richard Fan, we got Jared, Desi, Lethargic. That's exactly how I feel today, baby. Lethargic is as perfectly descriptive as it's gonna get for me. Paul Milligan, we got Blue Arrow, J2K, reminds me of Y2J. We got Vincent, we got Thomas Johnson, UCAN Holmes, Clayton, the one way. We got everybody and their mother's third cousin. Adara, how are you? Good morning.
I am splendid. How are you this fine Monday? I know you just had a little lethargic.
There, I was just about to say it again. Yeah. Lethargic is exactly how I feel today. I don't know why. I had a good weekend. I worked out, I went out, and I no drinking. It's been like it's been a dry January for me so far. Not by design, but that's just what it's ended up. All right, we're in this Tesla along with the Katina man on this. I think that this is a hell of a trade. Adara brought this news to you guys. The Model 3 Performance going to drop in China, and anybody who likes fast cars, well, this is going to be right down your alley, baby. We're wetting our beak here at the break of 188. We originally got in at 187.43, and then we were able to add on that dip into 147, so nicely on the money on this one. We're looking for that decided break of 188. We already got a print above 188. We got 188 and a quarter is the best we could do so far, but we're looking for that move back into 188, and I absolutely love this dip into 187. Look at this IB high over here. This takes us to 940. That's the implied balance high at the open-ish time, and that was a 187 top. Support or resistance here becomes support. Look how it flips. So that 187 resistance, look at that. Now it's becoming support, and we're above 188 again. So if you were patient enough, if you missed the initial move, and you packed your patience, and you hit long at 187, we're going to spin the money for you because that is dang brilliant, especially if you watching key support and resistance levels. What for me, Adara, the only final question is here, can we get away from that 188 level with some vigor? Can we make it up to the whole dollar or the $10 level in 190? It's going to be an interesting one today on TSLA. That rhymes. I'm pumped.
I like that. No, that's a really nice look here. And I like how the little beak wetter set up there along the way. Really strong. I like that it did not give up the ghost there. We had a dip, and then we just kept running. The Cybertruck just needed, I guess, a little bit of extra charge. Heading back to the upside. I am in a short. I put this in the chat as well because there's no position board. So I wanted to, which we will be getting updated there, but I just wanted to put an update here in the chat. I am also in a Katina trade, actually, which I didn't realize when I got into it. We're both in Katina trades today. Look at this. But yeah, I got short Google. I got short at this, moved back into that 151.80. I liked it there because I was watching the tape. I was like, hey, or the tape in the book, and I was like, I like where this is going. As I always do, I always say that I like to take out part of the position wherever we previously saw resistance or support. Because I know we can get there, but I don't know how much lower we can get, right? So I took out half my position at this 151.54 area because that was where we had that previous bottom. I'm holding a piece for the dream. I was looking at levels on the daily. I'm not seeing too much of interest. I know we opened on Friday at that 150 and 60 cents area, so that's kind of interest to me. Not sure if we can get there. In terms of an exit plan, should we go back up? I'm going to be keeping an eye on it if we make a new higher high. By higher high, I like this just above that 152 area. So that would be about 20 cents out of the money. Then I will be saying sayonara. However, if you hold that area, in general, if we kind of hold these areas and we're not making any higher highs, I may basically what I might do is I might reload. Because I've been dabbling in reloads. It's been my new kind of thing this last couple of weeks, trying to add some tools to my trading quiver. I just mix metaphors there, but you know what I mean.
That's all good.
Appreciate it. That's what we do over here.
Mixed metaphors, fake words, everything has a home on this show. Anything made up, no, we're just joking, of course. The Katina man is now $4 in the money. excuse me, 450 in the money. I stand corrected, Adara, as Tesla absolutely pumping to the high side here. Here comes that 188 3/4, and we blow through 188 3/4. We're about to see what hit it, Katina, man. We're about to hit 190 or so, you know, it looks on the day. We're dancing here with 3% in the green. I don't see any big size here on the book quite yet, Adara, even as we inch closer to that 189 level. You know, we typically expect resistance at the whole dollar, $10 level. I don't see anything quite yet right now on 190, so we'll wait maybe until the level 2 gets a little bit closer to it, then we can have a bit of a better look. But we're doing the dance with no pants here at that 75 penny, 80 penny level. A bit of resistance coming in here, but I don't know, man. It's probably not a good idea to stand in front of Tesla today. Sorry for the late start to the lesson, guys, but we're just nursing this trade. We're gonna start talking about the lesson momentarily. We are talking about gaps all week. And I think it's an appropriate time to talk about gaps because they often occur during earnings season, and we are in the midst of earnings season right now. And as you heard Adara, the Katina man, the Neil, everybody talking about it. We have big boy earnings season this week. Yeah, guys, we got all, not all, but most of the Mag 7 names reporting. I'm just waiting here to see if we get that print in the mid-90s, 188 mid-90s on TSLA, up over 3% now. Adara's rubbing her hands, and that usually means it's a good thing. Some people are beak wetting up here. The Katina man is absolutely printing. He's almost $5 in the money on TSLA. We're inching in here, Katina man, into that 189 level. The Katina man is not selling. So anybody following along with the Katina man's trades from the morning show, he is holding this bad boy. Oof. And there we go. We get the print right in front of 189 Adara. We're pumping to the high side.
Yeah, that's why I was rubbing my hands. It wasn't like Google's still Googling, but I was really rubbing my hands for that Tesla.
Oh, okay.
Congrats on that. That is a beautiful look there.
Like the Katina man
and I love
trade.
Seeing all the little beak wetters there heading to the upside. Congrats to you and Sean and everybody who took that Cybertruck to the upside there, because that's a beautiful, we had the little pause and then we just kept running. Really nice look. Thank you so much to Willis Addison for the $2 super chat. Hey guys, SQ, Microsoft, Coin, swing calls from Friday, boom. Yeah, I mean, let's take a quick look at Coin, because I know some people mentioning some of these crypto names in the chat. Coin up 7%. This is actually, you know, I'm going to put this up on my side chart, because if there's another dip here, I may get involved. Congrats to you on this. I know you also said Microsoft getting a price target increase. This one has earnings coming up. Yeah, Microsoft, interesting look as well. We did have the move up. Now we're kind of chopping and churning again, slightly lower highs, except for that big spike up a little bit after the open. So interesting look there as well. SQ. That is an NY name, Adara. Getting an upgrade this morning. Really nice, really nice move to the upside here for SQ. We'll have to see if it's doing a Christmas tree retracement. I want to watch what it does here around that 67.80 area. Congrats to you, Willis Addison. Thank you so much to your support. And thank you for that super chat. Yeah, what a look on Tesla. What a look on all of these names today. The market is certainly interesting. Let me tell you that. Earnings season is officially getting off.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. I did not do too much. I did not sleep for 20 hours either, so that was exciting.
I didn't eat a 4,000 calorie cake either, so we both achieved a little bit this week. How was, did you write?
I did do some writing. Yeah, that was nice. I did a little bit of writing yesterday. I got some pages done, so that was a nice,
very nice.
Nice thing for me. Other than that, just kind of relaxed and tried not to sleep.
Were the creative juices flowing?
They were pretty much flowing. Yeah, we were pleased
as
punch as the creative juices and creative punch was flowing there.
The creative punch, that'd be interesting. That'd be a good selling one right there.
Yeah.
Guys, we're sitting at the third of a dollar there on 188, and there goes a 189.33, guys. We are headed to 190. Hit it, Katina, man. What a print factory this is on Tesla. Somebody, I don't know who, somebody's $5.50 in the money now as we inch closer to that 189.50 level. Guys, today the position board is not working. We had a recent update to our trading software. There is a lack of confluence between our trading software and the position board at the moment. So we're going to be yelling to you our positions, currently like what I'm doing exactly right now. As soon as that is done, the fixing of the position board. We'll have that to you ASAP. We are now at 189 2/3, a 3.5% to the good. I say it's a momentary, it's probably moments away from getting a 190-ish touch. And by 190-ish, I mean maybe like a 189 high 80s, 189 mid 90s, low 90s, somewhere around there. It doesn't have to be exactly at that 190 level for that 190 level to be a factor, okay? So we've de-risked the majority of the position we're holding, small beak wetters, just so we can participate in this move up here right now on TSLA, but it's up 3 1/3%. Now that I've de-risked a little bit, it's probably a good idea to start talking about the lesson, Adara. Guys, we're talking about initiation gaps today. So right offhand, what you need to know is there are 3 types of gaps that you need to concern yourself with. One is called the initiation or runaway. They're synonyms. They are the same thing. That is what we're going to be talking about today. And essentially, this is the first of the gaps. So gaps usually happen sequentially. The first one that starts the series of gaps is called an initiation gap or a runaway gap. Let's get into the details of what this bad boy is, but I want to show you exactly where it tends to occur. Oops, I hit F11 on the wrong thing here. Fabian would be upset with me. This is basically a breakout from a technical level, whether it's a consolidation level, a key level of resistance, whatever it is. This is kind of what gets the stock out of its way, out of its own way, and then it starts trending, okay? So that's kind of all you need to, not all you need to know, but most of what you need to know about that. I think what did I do with my, there it is. Okay, perfect. All right, let's start the bad boy lesson here. Like I said, there are 3 main types of gaps. There's common gaps, breakaway gaps / initiation gaps, that's the one we're talking about today, and runaway gaps / measuring gaps, synonyms for that. An initiation gap falls into the category of breakaway gaps. So what are these breakaway gaps? Basically, they're signaling the start of a new trend. That is what these guys are known for, signaling the start of a new trend. These gaps often follow a period of consolidation and represent a surge in buying or selling activity. So they often take place like after something like earnings, right? You're unlikely to want to put your whole investment in something that is about to report whether it did well or not. And so oftentimes, once that report comes in, analysts are jumping in there, hedge funds, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, everybody and their mother is either getting in or getting out and reallocating their resources as follows, right? Into that particular name. And that's why we typically have initiation gaps after earnings. And I thought it would be very appropriate to talk about it. Let's talk a little bit about the characteristics of an initiation gap or a runaway gap. First of all, there is typically a volume surge that comes with them. Initiation gaps are usually accompanied by a noticeable increase in trading volume, emphasizing the strength of the new trend. And so you'll see in the example that we have up here where it broke out of the upward channel, and that's what created the initiation gap or the breakaway gap. Look at the volume under that. So I know this is, just it's a screenshot of the Amazon daily chart from 2017 to 2018, but the volume is accurate here. It does reflect the volume that took place. And the reason the volume is there is because, like we said, something fundamental changed about that particular name, so people were either positioning in or out. And so if there's a gap, it typically needs to be accompanied with above average volume, if not really above average volume, okay? And the second characteristic of the initiation gap is it clears the trend change. These gaps indicate a decisive shift in the market sentiment, marking the beginning of an uptrend or downtrend. And as you can see, what follows this initiation gap over here is a big boy move out of that 1,050. This is obviously before Amazon split, up into that 1,340 within, a few trading days, or within a few months, pardon me. Right? So that's about 30 trading days. You moved about $300. And the third characteristic of an initiation gap or a runaway gap is it's typically followed by momentum, right? After the initiation gap takes place, traders often observe sustained momentum in the direction of the gap, providing confirmation of the trend change. So even though you had here higher lows and higher highs for AMZN before that big boy initiation gap, you definitely had a range from which the stock was trading. So you had obviously the peaks and the valleys, peak and valley, and then you had a decided break of that upper trend line, and that's even though the upper channel was moving up to begin with, it really started taking off here once the initiation gap took place. Any questions or comments on that, Adara?
Yeah, I guess so as long as you have some kind of pattern that it's breaking up out of, then that's going to kind of be basically the initiation. So can that be, as long as it's kind of moving in the same direction, can that be any pattern? Like, could it just be like a general like stair step, or is it usually better if it's within a trend line?
So typically, initiation gaps come out of periods of consolidation,
okay, that makes sense.
Right? Where there is a clear resistance level, something holding back the stock, something that affected the psychology of investors. We don't want to get in quite yet. We don't see what we want.
Okay.
Then that data piece comes in, that whether it's earnings or a new catalyst or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden the volume's there, the buying's there, and you're clearly breaking through that top.
Okay.
Or bottom. It doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
It could be an initiation gap to the downside too, equally as valid, right?
Okay.
So that's
Appreciate that.
anything else?
Yeah, I think someone was mentioning PDD showing this on the daily.
Yeah,
so I'm
let's
going to
have a
pull
look.
that up
Why
on
not?
the
In
daily.
the wild, baby. Hit it, Katina Man.
No, it's AMD right now.
The Katina Man wants to advise everybody he's $1.40 in the money on the short or long? Long on AMD. 174.80 long AMD, Katina Man. What do you got on PDD?
I'm just pulling it up. Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, so we were kind of consolidating. Actually, I mean, we kind of did this twice. So we did this earlier. This was a little bit of an upward trend, but generally kind of consolidative. Then November 27th, we make a massive move to the upside. Then from there, we kind of consolidate again. And then we're down 8.5% right now on PDD. So yeah, I would say this earlier consolidation and move up, maybe a better example. But thank you so much, Emma Fernandez. We love in the wild examples here.
What's going on with PDD? Do we even
I
talk
couldn't
about
find
this?
a story on PDD this morning because
You can't just drop 8% on PDD for no reason.
I was looking at it this morning. We were down like 2.5%. I think it's the Evergrande. It might be part of the Evergrande thing.
Yeah, I know, but like
that's still
I
massive.
don't understand
though.
that. PDD is not really involved in real estate. Like, I'm so confused. Neil says it broke a key level of support. So let's have a look at what, first of all, before we do that, guys, we are definitely finding resistance here in that 190-ish area. We'll get to PDD in 1 second, but we definitely got to talk about the trade at hand. I'm still long TSLA with the Katina Man. I'm long 187.15. We are at 189.50. We are having trouble, unsurprisingly, at the $10 level, and by $10 level, I'm talking about 190. The top today for TSLA is 189, low 80s, okay? So I am anticipating that we likely may reverse off this level, and if we are to reverse, I'm looking for a possible hold at that 188.25, because that's where we crested out. So I'm looking for resistance to become a new support level here if we get it. I'm gonna sit there at 189.88. Shout out to all my Asians, because that is a lucky number for them, 88s. And so I'm going to partake in that as well and look to hopefully get filled here on an attempt into 190. So we'll talk about that. Let's look at PDD now and see what Neil meant here with respect to support and resistance. Let's go into the daily on PDD. Here it is, daily. Okay, so I see exactly what Neil's talking about. That, are you talking about 140, Neil? Were you talking about 140 on PDD? 136 he's talking about. Okay, so let's go have a look. Yeah, so we got wicks into that 136 level. But where are the closing prints mostly at? They're all in, yeah, I know. I'm just, because you know how I feel about wicks, Neil. Like, it's mostly closing prints, right? But yeah, Neil's bang on. I mean, literally was the break of that 136, especially that day on January 17th when we opened up literally at 136 and closed at 142.50. So that's actually an interesting look there. Let's just add in the ticker over here on PDD so people know what we're talking about. This is the daily chart on PDD. If you haven't been following this particular stock lately, it has been completely running counter to Chinese ADRs. While all these Chinese ADRs, including my beloved Li Auto, were tanking, PDD was making newer highs. And we obviously had trouble at that 150. We were never able to take 150 with any vigor, especially on a closing basis, a couple of wicks here and there, but PDD tanking big. I'm going to go ahead and say, on the daily chart, I like that 120 support level on PDD. That was like a 5-day consolidation before we absolutely broke off to the top there on November 28th. So 120 on PDD is an interesting level for me to get long on a swing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that notification there. I'm going to put it at 121, so it gives me a bit of a heads up about the descent into that $10 level on PDD. I'm not seeing anything on it on the day. I'm still looking on my blotter to see what's up. Adara thinks it has something to do with Evergrande, and I wouldn't be surprised. I see something here called a snowball effect, blaming Evergrande for the weakness in Chinese equities, but we'll have to wait until we get confirmation on that. So we'll look a little bit later there. Still waiting at that 189.88 on TSLA, as we are now 189 mid-70s there. Let's see if we get the print at 180, awfully close. Okay, let's go back and continue the lesson. So we talked about the characteristics of gaps. Now we're going to talk about how to identify initiation gaps, okay? So traders use various technical analysis tools to identify initiation gaps and confirm the potential trend change. The first one, obviously, the first analysis method or the identification method is look at a price chart. That goes without saying. So analyzing price charts, especially candlestick patterns, helps identify initiation gaps. Look for gaps accompanied by strong bullish or bearish candles. So, you know, we've talked a lot about this. I mean, if you're opening at the bottom of a candle and closing near the top, and it's a longer candle, especially as compared to others near it, that's a bullish candle by definition, okay? You're opening near the bottom, closing near the top means that the bears were outdone by the bulls throughout the majority of the day, and it's even more bullish if the next day we create another candle to make a new high, and that's exactly what happened here on Amazon. You make this big boy candle, you open up higher, you open up you know, near the bottom part of the candle, and you close up much near the high. The bottom and the upper wicks are very small, and then the following day you make another candle to make a new high. So that's what we're looking for there. The other IDing technique is volume analysis. So initiation gaps are more significant when accompanied by a surge in trading volume. Analyzing volume patterns helps confirm the strength of the gap, and that's what we see here as well. We see this huge outlying volume for that day that we broke the upper trend channel there on AMZN back in, I believe it was October of 2017. That's basically, this is a picture of that chart. Now, it's very easy to say, oh, you know, how do I figure out what's a high volume and not so high volume on Amazon? Well, you can do number of things. One, you can look at the relative volume, RVol, right? That's one of the data points we have on Trade Ideas. Make sure to check out Trade Ideas using the code there for 20% off. You also have candlestick analysis. You can look at the volume bars and look at, you know, you do 6 months prior to that, for example. To see whether or not that volume bar for the initiation gap is above average. You can also use a period of, you can use a 5-year period to see if the volume is outlying, is above average over that 5-year period. You can do 2 years, whatever you want, just make sure that it's a standard, okay? So volume analysis is the other one. And then the third, come back to the image if you're able to, thank you, is the trend line breaks, okay? Initiation gaps often coincide with the breaking of a trend line, signaling a shift from the previous trend to a new one. The Katina man is 650 in the money on TSLA. Look at Tesla go here, Adara. Wowzers.
Tesla.
Are we still holding a little bit? And that's it. We are out of the entire trade now. That was silly by me to do that. I should have taken out a lot less there. Yeah, that is a monster move on Tesla. People were buying this at the 180 level last week, and now we're $10 above that. Here comes 191, it looks like, on TSLA. So that's the end of my trade there on Tesla. I got a beak wetter at that 190.50, and that was the last one there. So silly for me to take out the entire thing here as it continues to run, but yeah, you never get the top wick, you never get bottom wick. Right, unless you're lucky. So great move here on Tesla. Shout out to the Katina man for printing on that. So the other identifying strategy here for initiation gaps is to see whether it broke out of a trend line or a significant area of resistance, and that's exactly what we get here. You had an upward channel which was respected for several months, and then on that earnings day, you got that big, huge gap up by Amazon breaking through the upper trend line like it didn't even matter. So those are the three techniques to identify initiation gaps. One, price chart analysis, look for a bullish candle subsequent to the gap, and then subsequent to that candle as well, see what the next day's candle will bring. Two, volume analysis, make sure that the volume that the gap broke up on is above average. Compare it to do an RVol analysis, do an average volume 5-year, 2-year analysis as well, and just look at the volume bars. Is it standing up higher than all the other days surrounding it? And then the third is a trend line break. So typically what you want is an obvious area of resistance from which the trend line or the gap is breaking through. Any questions or comments, Adara?
Yeah, no, I think definitely, like, it's kind of like what we talk about with pattern breakouts as well, right? Which is interesting.
Yeah.
You want that with volume and specifically for trend lines. So just kind of like a wider scale, I guess.
Right.
Version of that. I guess also I have a question. I don't know if this was addressed, but how much ideally should it gap for it to be more significant? Like, is the size of the gap add to the significance along with volume?
I would say it would, yes. I don't think there's a minimum that you can say, oh, it's got to be at least, like
2.5%.
Yeah, exactly. There's no minimum there, but obviously the bigger the gap, the more bullish, because it just signifies how excited investors were that they're buying hand over fist, pushing it higher, right?
Thank you.
So yeah, I definitely agree that the bigger the gap, the more the more exuberance is showing with respect to buyers. Good call
Appreciate
on
that. And I guess the same would be the opposite for sellers.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything that we're saying to the long side is applicable to the short side on gaps. Nothing is long specific or short specific when it comes to gaps. Not that I know.
That's cool. Okay, so it's like the same idea of being fractal with some of the candlesticks. It's
You
going
just
to be
to say fractal.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I kind of did. Also, there was Fee Rhymes with AMC saying in the chat, is SoFi filling an initiation gap? It's filling a gap from the daily chart to 950. So I saw this and I kind of see what you mean here. So we did have a downward trend on SoFi, and we did also have a gap down around this 950 area. We kind of, I would say it's both doing a gap fill here and also maybe initiation gapping after a bit of a downtrend, but I have much less experience with gaps so I'll kind of defer to you on this.
So one thing we should have started with is common gaps, and we're going to get to that on Thursday because it's really not that important for trading. But common gaps basically means gaps that occur often and then don't mean anything, okay? So before I show you what doesn't mean anything, I want to show you what means something. And that's why I've chosen to start with the initiation gap rather than the common gaps. But if you see gaps in random price action without trend, they are typically common gaps, and they are to be taken with less importance. They are to be categorized as less important, okay? So I don't know specifically the situation with SoFi, but what I saw was zigzagging there. No particular trend from which that gap was able to take the stock. So for example, can you go back to that?
Yeah,
because there was a gap on the way down, and then there was a gap on the way up, right? So those are the common gaps that we're talking about. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Oh wait, that's not SoFi. That's still Coin.
That's Coin, yeah.
Sorry. Here we go.
Yeah, so perfect. There you go. So you see that downward gap? Sure, it took it all the way down, but there was no continuation in that trend. What you did was you bottomed out 7.5, and then we're gapping up again. So common gaps, a little bamboozling. Try to stick with the characteristics and the rules that I showed you about how to ID them to avoid being bamboozled by the common gap scourge of the common gap.
The scourge. I
all right.
like that.
Trading strategies, Adara. How do we trade these gaps? Oh my goodness. All right. Once an initiation gap is identified, traders can implement specific strategies to capitalize on the new trend. What are those? So the first one, trend following. You know how much I love trend following. I'm a momentum trader. Initiation gaps are often used as entry points for trend following strategies aimed to ride the momentum to the new trend. So a lot of trend following strategies that we talked about are moving averages. So we've talked a lot about this. In trending markets, a crossover by one moving average over another, like the golden cross, about the 50 and the 200, will help, kind of show you that there may be a trend starting. However, in consolidative markets, they can be very bamboozling. This is the same thing with gaps. So during times of consolidative markets, when you don't have a discernible trend, gaps can be a kind of a false signal. And that's why you should be looking to see whether there was a key resistance level that was broken on that particular gap, because that often signals or foreshadows the breaking or the ending of the consolidation period and the beginning of a trending period, okay? So that's one thing we're looking for. We're looking for whether this gap is creating a new trend, and if it is, it's a good time to get in at the bottom floor, so to speak. So again, initiation gaps are often used as entry points for trend following strategies, aiming to ride the momentum of the new trend. And the other one is confirmation signals. So what confirmatory tools can we use to kind of confirm or deny the existence of this initiation gap? Wait for additional confirmation signals such as moving average crossovers or trend line validations to strengthen the reliability of the gap. So for example, if you were to get a gap and a couple of days later you had the golden cross from the 50 over the 200, that should be an indication to you that this is the start of a new trend, because you have two signals pointing the right way. Like Adair and I say all the time, it is on the balance of the evidence.
Yeah, it's like the lawyer terms, right? Like the way, the whole idea of guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yep.
Can you take this trade beyond a reasonable doubt? Because there will always be reasonable doubts. And I think that's why, as much as this is kind of a belabored lawyer analogy, perhaps, that I'm using here, I think the idea of looking at something on the balance of the evidence and weighing out the pros and the cons and trying to make an educated decision totally makes sense, because trading, things will go awry, but if you have a plan, then you have something to fall back on.
Bang.
Also, one little comment I would like to make here that I think we just kind of thought of, which is interesting, is because what I like about gap plays too is you're kind of, by nature, by necessity, you're avoiding what happens pre-market. And I think that's really key, because there can be a lot of, to use a word that's used a lot here, bamboozling movement in the pre-market. Like a lot of these small caps, they'll give up the entire ghost once they open, and they have these big moves in pre-market, right? So I think if you're purely looking at gaps, you're seeing, what did we do once we opened? Because that obviously, that implies a lot of movement up in the pre-market, but there are some things that will move like crazy in the pre-market and then open pretty much flat. So what I like about the gap is you're not fully discounting what's happening in the pre-market, but you're definitely giving it less credence. Because you're really looking at what we opened at. So I don't know if that made sense, but that was something I just thought of that I wanted to put out.
And I want to build on your point.
Please do.
So my layout for my own platform was really glitchy. So what I decided to do was on the weekend, I was going to rebuild the layout from beginning to end, so that I could get rid of any of the glitches that were in there. So while I was doing that, I was setting up my trading screens again at home. And one of my charts on the trading screen is a daily. So by design, I started excluding all pre-market action from my daily charts. I want to see those gaps. I don't care what it did in the pre-market. It hides the fact that there was a gap to the upside or the downside by including pre-market action in my daily. I want to see the pre-market action on my 15 and the 5 because I'm doing more of a micro analysis. But when I'm doing a macro analysis on the daily, I don't want to see any pre-market or aftermarket for that matter. So build on your point. The daily is where you get to see the gaps, and the gaps by definition tie your hands from trading in the pre-market because you still haven't seen that gap fully develop yet. Great call out there, Adair. I think that was quite insightful for someone who's just learning about gaps.
Thank you.
So
and I think it's crazy timing as well that you did that coming into this weekend with gaps. Like, I mean, look at us. We're already in this season to talk about these gap fills. I think you're right. I think talking about these during the start of a very hectic earnings week is, I think, really important as well. We have 5 of the Make 7 going to be putting some numbers out here, right? So there we go.
There you go.
It can do it better than I can.
It's covering the position board that's not working right now, so we're good to go on that.
There we go,
right?
yeah. But no, I appreciate that. And I think, as always, too, anyone sees any other potential gap in the wild, specifically initiation gaps. We love looking at stuff. We love talking about it. We used a lot of bullish examples, but bearish too, right? So, and
absolutely,
like, yeah, we love looking at these examples, and I think it's really good for me as I learn too, like what actually does count as a gap, because sometimes it's easier to think one thing and then seeing it can be quite another. So, yeah, people definitely put your ideas out here. Yeah.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit about TSLA now, because we did break through 190. We even got almost into 191 Adara. Technically, the high on the day, 10 pennies off that 191, 190.90. And here we go. Here we go. We're dipping below 190 now in the 189 3/4. Now, here's what I'm going to say. First of all, we have this little bit of consolidation area. This is on the 1, so, you know, don't take it with a grain of salt, but give it less weight, or less importance. 189.5. Let's see if we stop off at 189.5, we find support. If we don't, I'm definitely looking at this 188, 188.5 area here as a level of support if Tesla doesn't reject, breaks down below 190. I want to see previous resistance act as support. I'm going to go ahead and say between 188 to 188.5. If it makes its way down there, I'll be watching how it trades. I'm not saying that I'm going to have a resting order to trigger on that descent. Nuh-uh. I'm going to do as my friend Neil likes to say and wait for it to get to that level and then get it on the backside as it shows you its intention to hold up at that level and then start curling back up. Show me a couple of green candles to the upside off that 188, 188.5. I won't be participating in Tesla until it dips back into that level and holds up. So we did it nicely here on that move up through 190.50, and I'd love to do it again if we can get support at 188, 188.5. All right, let's bring in the side charts over here and talk about the small cap gappers du jour so my man Nimit can smile. I know he loves his small cap gappers du jour. All right, so first and foremost, PALI, everybody talking about this one. It was triple digit winner, up 115% right now. It has, though, given up the ghost off that 150 rejection. Now, you know, I don't like this for a specific reason, because that big boy move into 150 happened at 9:45 and not in the pre-market. So, you know, I have two rules for these small cap gappers. One, it's got to break through the pre-market high for me to really be interested in it. This one did it because the pre-market high was at 70 pennies. Number two, it's got to be above VWAP, right? Right now, it's sub VWAP trading at 113. And VWAP on my chart's at 118 level. So we'll have to wait and see whether this can start making higher lows and higher highs through the break of VWAP and hold above VWAP. Otherwise, I won't be interested in PALI making lower highs at the moment. The other one, the one that keeps on giving every single day, RVSN. This has been a multi-day runner to the high side. Let me show you the hourly chart on this. Guys, last week, or not maybe last week, but on the 16th, on the 12th, so that was Friday, this was at $1.50. Now it touched $16.25, and the amount of times that I've written RVSN here on the chart should give you an indication of how many times I've had to cover this for you guys, because every time I load it, I put in the new ticker again, right? So this has been an absolute rocket with higher highs and higher lows all throughout. It really hasn't bamboozled you, for the exception maybe of January 24th. It retraced a little bit, but the 25th was just a resumption of the high side. So RVSN continuing to give good opportunities here. This one did do that pre-market trade break idea. So this one at around 5 a.m. topped out at $12.35. If you had an order to break for the break of 12.50 or say 12 1/3, you printed, because that would have given you almost $4. It shot up into 16.25. It's doing the dance with VWAP right now. It's a smidge below it, 13.90, 14 bucks. Let's see if this one can, hold up, but I think the best trade for this one is behind it. Maybe on the day. We'll have to wait and see. The other one, Adara, is ONMD, up 181%. Ooh. This one had its move in the pre at 545. That high at 545 is $2.18. I will not get long on this one unless it breaks that pre-market high. Let's go ahead and put an alert for $2 and 10 cents, so that if it's around that level, we're notified. ONMD is that one. It is above VWAP right now, just sub 150. And then the other one here, REVB, up 95%. I'm going to tell you to stay away from this one, though. Just look at the price action on this. Very bamboozling. And each candle has an average width of a lot.
I like that, an average width of a lot.
Yeah, I mean, look at on a per candle basis. What is the price action on a per candle basis? And I got to tell you, like, look at this one over here. $15 to the bottom side, $20.50 to the high side. That's a 5-minute candle. That's $5.50 worth of range, and you ended up somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to say this is awfully spready and awfully dangerous. I'm not going to get involved in REVB, but it is still up 96 some odd percent a day.
Yeah, I mean, on MD, I actually did have on my side chart, and then I remembered we hadn't actually made a pre-market high, but what I liked about on MD, and I will point, it's been kicked out of the side chart for Coin, which I'll talk about in a second. Coin evicted it. But I did like that we were kind of having this curling back up, but then we kind of dropped below VWAP, and I was like, we also haven't made that new pre-market high, so that one has been evicted. With Coinbase, so, or by Coinbase, I guess. So I want to talk about Coinbase. I had this long earlier. I got in probably a little bit too early here, but basically what I liked is higher highs, higher lows. Shout out to Willis Addison for talking about his calls on this one, because that was why I pulled up this chart initially, and I did say then, I kind of like the move of this, right? I like that we have higher highs. I like that we have higher lows. I like that we're up 8+% on the day. I took out part of my profit, again, where we had that previous peak, so around that 135.25, took out the rest just shy of 136, because I've noticed too, some of these stocks have a hard time making these whole dollar levels. So I was like, let's give it like a cent. So it was 135.99. I'm trying to get the rest out at this 136, or sorry, the rest. I got back in a really small share size. However, I might reload if we keep holding this 135.50, because I've watched, basically I'm getting out if we dip decisively below 135, but I've watched, we'll get to like 135.10 and then we'll shoot right back up. My point of entry here, because I just remembered there's no position board, 135.70, so far from bottom wick, but I did get in there because I noticed we were holding it pretty well in the book, and then that'll be just a 54 cent winner here on this sim trade in Coin. We're around my point of entry. I have to say I'm pleased as punch right now, but given the volatility of Coinbase, that may change. I'm a little bit nervous here, just because, you know, and as Sean says, a scared trader is a deficient trader, so I'm trying to be a little bit more decisive. I got back in because I do like this move, and, you know, the trade is still valid as per, you know, what Sharif says. We haven't made a new lower low on this, so I'm going to stay in for the time being. I'm not going to let my nerves shake me out of this trade.
What the hell is this stock up 8% today for?
Coinbase,
Is there a headline?
I did not believe there was.
What the hell? Nancy must be buying. Kidding.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Maybe a Coinbase sympathy play. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm trying to look for one as well. That's bizarre. Just reading here because of some insider buying. Was Ted Cruz buying matching Loomis legislative efforts? No. Okay. No. I'm just reading to see, because there's a lot of talk here about senators. I thought maybe they were buying, and there was some disclosure of that. No. Wow, what a great day for crypto. CLSK is up 14.25%. The mining names are all pumping. 8.8% for Mara, 6.15 for Riot, 14.25 for CLSK. Where's my hut? I gotta put it in my
one hut too.
Yeah, right. Hut 8. Let me just put that in quickly here. Let's see what it's up 6.75 today. So all the mining names pumping to the high side. Let's show CLSK here. I think people will probably want to see this bad boy. We had Upstart on from last week. This is CLSK's chart. Sorry, it does take a minute to hold. And there you go. It is trading at high of day right now. It just printed 19.19, the high of day, and it is at that level right now. So we're going to have to figure out how to maybe we can participate in some of these crypto names, Adair, because this is up and to the dang right here. Started its life out at $8.01. That was Friday's close. And guess what the low on the day is? $7.98. So it's cleared this by about $1.25 so far as we continue to pump up here. Let's go and have a look at what the half an hour chart shows us. So maybe we can find some key levels of resistance here on CLSK. If this wants to load any day now, there we go. Okay, great look over here. This interesting 970 area. Yeah, this 9 2/3, 9 3/4. Maybe even 9.5. Yeah, there is some indication there of 9.5. If this makes its way up into 9.5, that's going to be an interesting short, because while you had support on January 3rd at 9.5, you had it again on the 8th, and you got awfully close here on the 10th when we dipped into 9 3/4. So that 9.5 to 9 3/4, that is an interesting resistance level on CLSK. It's up quite nicely today, so we'll have to see whether this one gives up the ghost, but right now it does not look like it will. IRBT gap fill, says T-Money. Sure, we'll have a look at the BlackRock ETF. IRBT. You can come to the screen.
Oh, isn't that iRobot?
Oh, that is iRobot. Sorry, I was thinking of IBIT. That is because of the dissolution of the agreement today with Amazon. This one, we kind of knew that was going to happen because of the European regulator last week, right? IRBT. Let's pull up this bad boy. Yeah, interesting gap fill here. I mean, we gapped down aggressively from that $17 close on Friday. We dipped all the way. Look at that algo spike into 12, and then it's been bought up from 12. Now the high of 15.75. So the whole move is being filled. It's being bought right back up. We're above the 50. Yeah, 17 really is resistance. We'll see what it does at the 200 here on the 5, but it did break through the 50 like nobody's business. And above VWAP. Let's go to the daily. Let's have a look here. Huh. Yeah, so interesting double bottom kind of maybe here on IRBT. This was like that big move down that took us into 12.5, and this morning we go to 12, and then we got bought up. So it looks like a bit of a hammer candle here on IRBT. If we can get above that $20 level, I'm talking about a swing, I'm not talking about an intraday trade, but if we can get above that $20 level on a closing basis here, this could materialize into a double bottom, and you could have an interesting move into at least 30 bucks. So IRBT is a good looker here for a possible swing, but I'd say definitely wait for a closing print above 20. Nice hammer candle on the day. Let's see if it holds up.
Yeah, it's a really nice look there. Also, there's a couple I want to pull up for some people in the chat. Nothing to report on Coinbase. We are still trying to cash in, pun as always intended, in this sim trade here. Like I said, 136.24. We're having a really hard time pushing that 136, but each time we're knocking on the door a little bit harder, with a little bit more intensity. So a couple cent spread here, so we're actually over 136 on the sell side. I didn't have the confidence to reload, and I'm kicking myself a little bit for that, but you know, each day is gonna be a learning opportunity. I'm just happy I stayed in while this one got a little dicey, especially given the volatility that is every single crypto name always at all times ever. So yeah, pretty happy with this trade. I'm just gonna let it do its thing. 21. When we look at SoFi, Jameson mentioning SoFi dump. Yeah, I mean, also, you know, Michael Noss was on this morning. Shout out to Michael Noss. I know Sharif was pointing out to me when Michael Noss was talking about that rounded bottom by the roundy face or the smiley face. And look, SoFi's kind of having a bit of a frowny face here. We have these a bit of a consolidation top. So I think that's an interesting look. I know Neil also posting about SoFi in the chat as well, so you can see updates on that too. SoFi nearing VWAP. And yeah, I think certainly a look to the downside. Also ULTA, I believe Nick W was mentioning ULTA. So he tagged you on that.
Yeah, Alfred bought that first swing, by the way, on the earnings last time. Yeah, I didn't think it was a great play. It's a tough day trading stock, Adair, just because of volume. What's the spread on that bad boy right now?
Spread right now is about 20 cents. It's less, yeah, it's less bad than the Lilly spreads. I feel like Lilly is much spreadier. But yeah, no, I think with ULTA, I think this kind of, it's certainly, we've made a higher high from the previous high, which I think is something, right? No double top here. We had that previous high of that 182. Then we go and eclipse it, that 182, what am I saying? 482. And then we eclipse it with that 495 area. Looks like we're trying to make an even higher high. We had a bit of a mini downtrend here. We're trying to push up above that. I think like a decisive close above that top would probably be of interest.
Oh yeah.
That would be my look for this.
Can you zoom out so we can look at that previous resistance level over here? So what is that? That's 510, 500?
510, 520, yeah, I think.
This over here, this bottom end over here, yeah.
510.
510. Okay, so that's interesting there, yeah. Good look. Good
Yeah,
look.
really interesting look. And I think too, clear resistance at 550 I'd be aware of because the double top there. But yeah, thank you for pointing that out. We did have some support and resistance going on around that 510.
Yeah, because that's a great, I mean, like, look at this. This is what I call a bull flag over here.
Oh, yeah.
A bit of a, that's a flag.
Yeah, it is a
definitely not
flag. And then we had the
breakout.
consolidation. And
Yeah. So that's a good look there. Guys, I see people talking about the NQ here. We are bouncing a little bit off the lows. So we were really hovering. We were doing the wick dance here with the lows. Have a look at this. So this white line, as you know, that is yesterday's closing print. Not yesterday's, but Friday's 15726. Sorry, 17526. And all the dips into that level, all of them, bought up without exception. The only one that broke it was this candle over here at 9 a.m. And yeah, 9 a.m. 9 a.m.? Hold on. Yeah, 9 a.m. I'm not losing my mind. And look where the closing print is. It's well above that level. So all the dips bought in. I think somebody asked me at the top of the show, what do you think about the future here? And I was just like, well, you know, it's taking, it's bouncing off the dips, but let's see if it gets above VWAP. And it is decisively now above VWAP. We'll have to wait and see whether we can break above this IB high. Dan the Man Emmons was tagging me earlier in the chat. He's like, you know, we're bouncing a little bit from the IB high into the low, into the high and low. We haven't broken up above or below the implied balance levels, right? So I think above that, we're going to have to break above 17,585 for us to really get going here. But if we do, the overnight high that we have to contend with that we put in this morning at 2:10 a.m. was 17,591. So a smidge below 17.6. If we make it up there, look for resistance, number one, at the overnight high, and number two, obviously, at that 600-point level. We always chart the 100-point levels, but very much, you know, still a bit of an inside day relative to Friday's price action on the future. The strongest of the bunch today is going to have to obviously be Tesla. Tesla is a rocket ship on the day, even though it's retracing now off that 191 touch. The second in command is going to have to be Meta. Look how nicely Meta popped here off that pivot, holding the Friday's close at 394 and change. And the high there, you saw Neil look at this earlier, the failed break of 400 took us to 400 and a third. We are well below that right now. Well, not well below it. We're at 399 and a quarter, but we are making these higher lows. So look at this trough over here at 397.50. And then we have another baseline low right there at 397.90. And now we have a higher baseline low, sorry, at basically 399. So higher low, higher low, higher low, possibly here for a decided break above 400, but it may take a couple of days for us to break above that 400, like in the way that it took us several days to break above 500 on NVIDIA, a couple of days to break above 600. Maybe NVIDIA is not the right example here because it's just such a rocket ship, but it may take Meta longer to break over this 400. The other nice bounce here is the Amazonian. Amazon getting a nice little double bottom off that 159 double bottom there. And now we are closing in on possibly a 160 break. This is the short that we had. Remember this, sorry, not the short. Remember we took this Amazon, yeah, remember this 160 break on Amazon that we had on Friday? And it topped up all the way into 160.75 and then we got break even. So that was the break of 160. Do we get another test of that 160 level on Amazon? It didn't hold up on Friday. Does it hold up today? Forget about the pre-market action that we had today that took us to above 160. That doesn't count. We're always looking at after the bell, especially with these big cap names. 160 insight here on AMZN.
Yeah, I'm just watching Coinbase continue to do Coinbase things. I am still in this position. I've decided I'm just trying to get out right at this point, right below 136, because the amount of difficulty that we were having with that 136, honestly, I don't even know if we'll be eclipsing it again. We're definitely chopping and churning. I'm really watching this 135.50 because I don't want us to dip too much below that. I did get it at that 135.70, so that's about a 20 penny range. I'm just really getting increasingly nervous about our inability to make a higher high here. Because that was kind of the contingency at which I entered this trade. So I'm certainly keeping my eye on that there. But that being said, we've held 135 really well, which is why I've stayed in. I'm also in this tiny short on Square. Tiny because the position is really small. I like this one. This is another one. Shout out to Willis Addison for mentioning this one. We had this nice move up, and then we fell below that earlier area of consolidation, that 67.70. I was watching as we made that decisive lower move. I'm really looking to kind of take out profit around VWAP, but again, really small position here in the sim. Rock Doc saying BTC's pushing higher. Hopefully they can give coin one more push. I hope so too. We're kind of again recovering at that 135. Just watching my side charts. So fingers crossed, toes crossed. Not taking any hopium today. No sir, no ma'am, no person. I'm just really again that 135 buoyancy. We're keep bouncing off that 135. So that's going to be the main look on this one. Also, Google trying to curl back up here. I tried a couple shorts on Google. I will say half successful because part of it, I got out part of it where I wanted to. The other part I did not. We are curling back up at Google, though. We're actually curling back up around VWAP, so I might need to keep an eye on this. And then definitely an interesting area would be this 5-minute double top right after the open at that 152.60 area. That to me is kind of a clear area. Coinbase. Really testing my patience here. We just had that dip below 135 and then recovered. I do feel like an auctioneer. The stocks like to make us do that sometimes. Yeah, so much going on here in the market. Is anyone seeing any gap fills? Anyone seeing anything we should look at? As always, definitely let us know here. In the meantime, I think I may have to be reevaluating my life in Coinbase because that is my 2 cents right now in Coinbase. It's getting a skosh dicey. Although I will pull this one up again just to kind of show what we're doing here. So we just dipped below that 9 EMA. It's a pretty decisive 135 dip below.
Well, the position board's working.
Oh, yay, okay. My Coinbase, I will say my Coinbase, I am still in Coinbase, but I am in Square in that short. But I think I'm gonna get out of Coinbase right now, so that'll
take a little time, I guess.
Yeah, no worries.
I can take over while you deal with that.
Thank you very much. I think I need to deal with
guys, Lucid, what is going on with Lucid? I don't see a headline. Okay, I have no idea why this is moving. All I see here is Lucid leads EV rally. Yeah, maybe on the day, not in general. But yeah, Lucid's up 16 2/3%. The notional move is off that Friday close at $2.66. The high today, $3.40. We are doing the dance with no pants at VWAP at $3.10. We kind of like in a bit of a consolidation range here. The only thing that I'd say is good about this little consolidation move at VWAP is that we put in higher lows. So we dipped into that 298, broke 3. Now we're straddling 3 from the top side. Let's see if we can print, above that 315 and start curling up maybe into that 3.5 on the day. Lucid, big boy move on the way up. It is outdoing its sister company, Fisker. And they're not sisters, I'm kidding. But yeah, FSR also got shellacked last week. Today, it is trying to make up, I guess, a little bit for the beating it took last week. Up 10 3/4%. It is still sub $1. Guys, the closing print on Friday on Fisker was a hot 80 pennies. Guys, this stock was way higher than this. I feel bad for this stock because, like, okay, I was telling Brendo, all my Instagram and Facebook feed is filled with the Fisker Ocean. Like, that's how much money are they spending in digital ad sales? Because I can't tell you, it's a ridiculous amount. It's like every 4th or 5th ad I'm seeing is like literally is the Ocean.
And across platforms?
Oh yeah, well, because same company. Right?
Oh, okay, so it's just Meta.
Facebook,
like, okay.
yeah. I don't see it on my favorite social media platform, though, TikTok. It doesn't seem to make its way on there for whatever reason.
That's why I was going to ask about TikTok, because I know you were mentioning the Meta, or the Meta, to quote a man I heard at an event once, Meta yeah. platform.
Somebody called it Meta last week. That was really funny. Yeah, Fisker awfully strong today, guys, 10.5%. Nikola, 9%. Rivian, 3 and change. So the EVs, except if you're, of course, a Chinese EV, you're pumping to the high side today, probably because of the beating they took last week. I mean, we need only look at the half-an-hour chart. Let's show them the half-an-hour chart. That was the shellacking it took last week, January 22nd there, and off that low of 110. I'm showing you the chart on Fisker here, and it's been down, finding a bit of a base there at 72 pennies on the 25th. trying to ride that back up. We'll have to wait and see whether it can reclaim a dollar. A dollar still, you know, about 10 pennies or so away from where we're trading at now. So good look on EVs, guys. This is the trade that I took earlier today. And look, we're finding some support, it looks like, here on Tesla at that 188.50. We talked about 188, 188.50 possibly being a level of support here, owing to this resistance rejection that we got at around 1045, right? We popped up into 188.5, and then we tanked all the way back down into that 187 area. But, you know, eventually we did make our way back up, and that's why we were looking at this area for a possible hold. It doesn't quite come down into that 188.5. It troughed out there at 188 and 2/3. So you would have definitely had to front run that that area for you to get filled. We'll have to wait and see whether we can get a decisive break again above that 190 area. But Tesla, the gift that keeps on giving on the day, up 3 1/3%, hit it. He's still, the Katina man is still printing on the AMD long, the Tesla long. Anything else you want to update people on? Apple long. What's the deal with the Apple?
Apple were long 189.90.
The Katina man is long 189.90 on Apple as it bounces now almost above 191. It's trying to fight with VWAP here. I'm talking about Apple. It is the dead one on the day today. I'm not really sure who was selling today on Apple, but clearly somebody was selling there into the open as it did tank off that 192.50 close, guys, that we closed out on Friday. All right, let's see what the chat is up to, and then we'll maybe take some questions. Big Nimit, TikTok audience can't afford EVs. They are happy with hair gel and shampoo ads. Come on, Nimit, be nice. I watch TikTok and I can afford an EV. Nick Dubb, where would you be selling a swing trade on CL? Great look. Okay, let's talk a little bit about that. Because clearly we're getting a move today on oil because of what's happening in the Middle East. We don't talk politics on the show, but there was an attack in Jordan on American soldiers, and then, you know, that's causing all sorts of concern now that the U.S. will respond, and it's going to, you know, obviously open up the belligerencies there in the Middle East, and, you know, that's going to affect typically oil. So let me exclude the pre-market action on this bad boy so that I can give you an honest opinion of the gap. And here we go. So we exclude that. Huh? Why didn't it remove? Show data outside of regular trading hours. So I took that off. All right, whatever. So what do we see here on oil? Are you gotta be kidding me? Oil is at, what the hell? This isn't right. That's Colgate. Oh, I see. That's why. It's Colgate. I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm so confused. Futures. All right. February. Yes, February. No, it's the March contract we have to deal with nowadays. Sorry about this, guys. Give me a sec here. Just a look. All right, where do we find resistance on oil? This is going to be a bit of a tougher one here just because we're so sporadic. Let's go ahead and say 80 bucks is going to be that interesting resistance level. We have a crest out at 80 bucks back in mid-August there. Who's calling me? I don't know. You look, I'm not going to give an opinion on commodities. It's just so hard to chart this stuff, and it is so subject to the whims of geopolitics. It's just really, I don't want to give you something that you're going to rely on and then end up getting risk, but I'm going to say $80 resistance here. If we can get a closing print above 80 bucks, which I don't want to see as a person who drives a V8, I don't want gas to go up anymore. I already saw it's $1.50. It was like $1.35 not that long ago, right? So per liter, guys. We're not even talking gallon here. We're talking liter. So yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't really help that much, Nick Dubb. It's just, you know, with these commodity plays, they're just so subject to the whims of geopolitics. So we'll have to wait and see. All right, what else is being talked about here on Big Kyle Burdett? Long PayPal. Kyle, you're trading equities? No.
New year, new Kyle.
I know, right? New Kyle. A long PayPal from $62 break. I have no idea what to do with a long. Not only is he trading equities, but he's taking something long.
Right?
The Perma Bear, aka Big Kyle Burdett. He's like, I have no idea what to do with a long. It's the same thing you would do with a short, my man.
Perma Bear coming out of hibernation.
I love it. I love Big Kyle Burdett's keeping us all guessing. But we'll talk more about that once we get back from the real deal with Neil.
The real deal today, and it's going to be trading halts. You know what they are. You see them when a stock's going wild. You want the volatility. You want to play the volatility. But what does it mean, and how can you take advantage of them? So first things first. Why does the stock go into a halt? It goes into a halt for a couple of reasons. Now, one of those, it could just be as simple as news. A company could have news they're going to disseminate. They want to stop trading in the stock, and then they are going to open it back up once that news is out and the market can react to it. Sometimes that's a good trade for you out there. But most of the time when something halts, it's because of volatility. Something has moved too far, too fast, and they're trying to get it under control. That's the purpose of a halt. The good thing about this is it provides us with a chance to look at a stock, peel it back, and see where people want to make a market. Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of this, I think everybody who trades volatile stocks, especially some of these low float types of runners that are going to halt, you want to have some way to track it. Now, in P Pro 8, where we trade, day trade the world, I have a halt scanner that can show me where the halts are. Trade Ideas, which we use, also has a halt scanner. You can go to NASDAQ trader.com, which I have up here. They're going to have a halt page. Theirs will show you what's the reason, limit up, down, volatility halt. You'll see what's moving, why it's halted, if it's news-based or if it's volatility. So if you're looking for a volatility halt or a volatility halt to give you indications on trades, you'll want to have a resource, as I said, whether it's Trade Ideas, here at Day Trade of the World, P Pro 8, proprietary in the platform. If you don't have either of those, NASDAQ traders right there for you. So let's think about the mechanics of what happens when a stock halts, because you'll see this going absolutely nuts. This is Rev B. It's halted multiple times today. That's why I want to bring it up. This opens up, it halts down, it halts up, it halts down, and then it opens back up, actually holds for a bit, and then halts down again. So what's happening as it gets to those levels? Once you hit a halt band, right, especially this one to the downside, what it means is at that particular price, once it's traveled too far, too fast, there's 15 seconds, and within that 15 seconds when it touches the band, it either prints back up because it's gone too far down, or it goes into a halt stage. And it's the same thing in the other direction when you go up. Now that halt can be anywhere, it can be either 5 minutes long for volatility halt or 10 minutes long. So think about what you're trying to accomplish with a halt. You're trying to stop the madness in a stock and establish liquidity replenishment. So the levels, not just where they halt, but where it opens back up, presents an equilibrium price. Not just for the auction, but a place where when everything broke loose, this is where the buyers were able to match the sellers. And that's very important, because what you'll end up seeing here, and this will be a bit of a theme, is where things halt and open back up tend to be pretty key levels in the future. Now, Rev B is going all over the place, but then it halts down at 1640 and it opens at 1640. Then it halts up at 1863, opens back up at that price. It does that dance. It keeps trying to trade away from those halt bands and finds itself equilibriums. So the question you ask yourself is, what can you do with this as a trader? Now, the obvious answer would be, well, use those as entries and exit points. Sometimes it can be that clean. But remember why this is halting in the first place. There's not enough liquidity. It's bound to run stops. If you just throw a line on a chart and say this is where it halted and opened, you're probably going to get your stops run 100% of the time, or like 90% of the time. So you've got to be a little bit more nimble than that. But once you know the general area that's held, there is the first actual halt to the downside that closes underneath that support level right here at about 10 o'clock. underneath, it opens back up, regaining that level. Suddenly, that bottom gives you a bit of a lower high, and then it consolidates above. I always say this on our live show, I'd rather take consolidations and high day breaks on these crazy stocks because they're too volatile. So if you look at the consolidation, it stops halting every 5 minutes, puts in a higher low, consolidates above the original halt area at that 1640, and then you can work some kind of a long trade in there. You don't have to be first. You just want the stock that's losing its mind to show you the area where the buyers and sellers are comfortable having equilibrium. Once it establishes something like that, then you can look to an entry point, and then you can see this one breaks out a little bit. And the best part about it, look what happens on the way back in. On the way back in, after another series of down halts, it then holds the same low. Now, that's not going to happen every single time, but at least it gives you a level to play off of. Instead of trying to be the person saying this is going to go GameStop and break out the high of the day, sometimes the more reasoned and measured trade is to try to find a spot where you can look for your standard support and resistance. Now, every now and then, it's going to be a little bit cleaner than others. But let's not forget something. It's not just where can you find support and resistance. Sometimes a halt can just be the end of a move. Now, I'm not saying that this particular stock, Pally, this is the middle of the day, it could still go higher from here, all that kind of good stuff. But this is a name which was doubled up in the pre-market, was running, you have no chance to halt until you get the open, and was breaking out tops, it's over $1, all that good stuff, and then suddenly it rejects the high and halts to the downside, right there at 123. So what's the first thing we think about? Okay, well, where's the equilibrium opening back up? Right at the exact same halt price at 123. The first thing it does is try to break the top and fail it. From that point on, that is your wall. It's almost, sometimes it's really clean. This is probably one of the cleaner examples I've seen of it. It immediately fails that equilibrium price of 123, and then 20 minutes later, top. Middle of the day, again at 11:30, the same top, and it just gives you the scalp trade multiple times off of that level. It's not just some random line in a chart where it halts. That, of course, is the band. Think about what it means when it opens up back at that same price and then cannot run away from it. It's an equilibrium. For 5 minutes or for 10 minutes, people have been putting orders in for price discovery. When they discover that price, you are gifted a potentially significant level. All you need to find is a little bit of confluence. It fails a level, there's a lower high, and then you can start shorting off of that level as it stops. That's what we love. Confluence is just something that every trader is going to want, right? It's not just one thing that gets you into a trade. Maybe it is for some people, but if you can find 2 or 3 good reasons, key level, the halt band, maybe a lower high or a higher low that can be put in there, zooming out to a daily chart and potentially finding some levels. Those are all good ways to give you some confluence in trades. And as I said, you're going to, this is an important one, you're always going to want to have some kind of an indicator if you're looking at halts. If your strategy is to find halting stocks or trade volatile type of names, then you're going to want to have a scanner up there to say, okay, well, what's going crazy? What's halting? The top of the list here, showing it to you live, this is NEXI. It halted once at the absolute top. What were we just talking about? We were just talking about, well, what happens when it rejects these equilibrium prices? Open back up, immediately can't get through that halt top at 885. So there's your significant level. It pops in, fails it. I mean, that's really easy. If you have locates on the stock, which I'm guessing you probably don't, it pulls back in, and suddenly you've got yourself a key price at that initial halt entry. Now, the thing about these, and keep in mind this, when you reject something like this up at that top, and you are pulling back, some people say gaps pull back into VWAP. Remember, sometimes you can have a trend continuation. And this is a perfect example of it. So you pull back in, you bounce off VWAP. It also happens to be $8 even, which, whatever, round number. But before I would consider that it's bounced and going to make another move, I want buyers above that halt price. I'm not thinking about break out the top, blindly go long. Because if it rejects it, you could be out 10%. You want it to hold the bid and see buyers above that key price. So yes, you're able to get that pullback. You want to see buyers above this 885, and until you see that there, is the potential of another failed break to the downside. Whenever a halt level ends up that big of a deal, I want to see some serious evidence that it is through that price and that you're not the person trying to make the move, you're the person trying to join the move. Because these halt stocks will rinse you easily. No one ever went broke taking profit, and no one ever lost money when they were not taking a trade or falling into a trap. I would rather miss a couple of massive moves to avoid blowing up on one of these halt style trades. Because when you hit one and it goes, they're volatile and halting for a reason. You're gonna get that chance at a big winner. So better to make sure you get that great entry or that patient entry, like we were talking about on something like that Rev B. That patient entry where you see it consolidate and hold the key level for a while. That's the thing. You see the halt bottom hold, you see the consolidation, then you can get that long. You see it ends up ripping, that's fine. Rather take that trade than try to chase the magic as it's ripping higher and then expecting every halt stock to turn into a GameStop. That's not the way that it goes. Be patient. Understand that those reopens and those halt prices, they're liquidity events. They're going to guide you toward key prices. It's your job to then look for some confluence around those and set up your trades. That's the real deal. We know halts. They're not going to stop happening. So we got to be taking advantage of them if you're trying to trade these low float runners or these gappers.
Guys, I hope everybody was paying attention there because he was dropping some serious facts, especially if you are a small cap gapper trader. Halts, you need to know all about them. Thank you very much for that, Neil. Very insightful and informative as always. And you know, there does sometimes happen to be gaps on halts, right? Because then you gap up above an area where there was no price action. So we're not talking about those type of gaps today, but you know, just thought I'd mention that.
Food for thought, yeah.
Food for thought. Thank you. Yeah,
sorry, one thing I want to say really quickly before we get to the lesson. Butt Crackers, thank you so much for the $1.99 super chat. I said it so quickly that I ignored the name and everyone starts laughing over here.
Ram Rib's laughing, Neil is laughing,
chat.
Everybody's laughing.
You guys, I was saying it so
No one
cool.
did it to you, Adair. You chose to do this on your own. I told you.
That's fair. But I wanted to thank them for their super chat, their $1.99 super chat. And Sharif is right. I did do this to myself. Longtime listener, thank you so much for your support. Any chance, look at Baba. Yeah, so I do have Alibaba up here.
Yes,
and I have to say, it's moved down. We had sort of a double top at this 102, maybe triple top at 102, 1, 2, 3. Massive move to the downside below a pretty discernible and considerable area of support around that 82-esque, right? So we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches this swoop below, lower highs, lower lows. I think for me, a really interesting look for Alibaba. I don't know if you meant daily or intraday. I can look at intraday after, but I just wanted to look at the daily quickly. I think moving back into that 78, making a higher high would be of interest, but I'm definitely going to be cognizant of that 80, 82 area, just given how strong of an area of support this is. We talk about this all the time. It's one of the biggest things I've learned here, and I know, Sharif, you say this a lot, support becoming resistance.
Always.
And so that's something I would really be cognizant about, that 80, 82 area. Beyond that, I think the next discernible area, this 102 triple touch. So definitely being careful with that. I just want to look at that, you know, like let's look at the 5-minute chart in case you did mean intraday, because I want to make sure all our bases are covered. Yeah, I mean it's rough. That's all I have to say for Alibaba on the thing today. We had a big move down, a little bit of move. Round open, we fell. Not much of a recovery. I kind of hesitate to call this a roundy face. However, if we continue to not make a new lower low, it's not a bad look. We actually are only down 1% on the day. It just seems much more significant given this giant move to the downside at 9:40. But yeah, sorry to interrupt there with the lesson. I just wanted to get into this. Thank you very much to butt crackers for your super chat once again. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. You're the best. So yeah, so good times there. And hopefully that was of some relevance here. Alibaba really needs some kind of saving grace to move it up there. But yeah, those are my levels on Alibaba.
I love people and their comments about that in the chat. You know, insinuating what kind of profession he could have as well. Yeah, we'll leave the jokes for the chat. You guys get it. Guys, while Neil was dropping hot lines, the market was making highs. So 17,592 HOD on the NQ right now. We did touch and just break through the overnight high that we made at 4:10 a.m. this morning, but we are finding resistance there as we come right back down off that new high, 17,592 3/4. We'll be obviously looking to see how we do with 17.6 if and when we make it up there. Also was being yelled at by the chat about Meta. Meta is accumulating again in front of 400. We just got a perfunctory break there of that 400 level, going up to $400.10, and then again 400.03. So you're not going to catch me on the other side of 400 taking the long like you did last week on the other side of 160 on Amazon. I'm not going to be doing that again today. That's not the kind of trade this is presenting you. How do I know that? And like the case in point, look at the break initially at 10.25 and 10.30 of 400. It was a big boy huadunk. We got up to that $400.33, and then look at the move right back down in 2 candles, Adara. We were right back at $3.98, so we gave up the ghost on $2 within, you know, a couple of minutes like that. So again, I don't want to be, over exuberant, taking trades that don't make sense on the particular day. It made sense on Friday because we know we didn't get that 160 break. It kept accumulating on Amazon. There was a huge seller at 160 on Friday. We don't have that again today on Meta at 400. So it'll have to be a different type of trade. Perhaps maybe a VWAP bounce. I mean, that's what... the VWAP bounce off that initial 400 rejection was absolutely a great trade, because if you got in at 398, you printed a couple of bucks because we touched 400 again. So it'll have to be a trade similar to that rather than an actual break of a level trade. But we'll get to that if and when it happens. But I'm keeping my eye, Meta 400. Let's talk about this Tesla trade here. This was the trade of the day for me, and so far the only trade. And this is what I'm unsure about. I kept yapping about 188 as a possible support level. It was prior resistance level over here. I'm talking about 188 on Tesla. And now we are making a series of lower lows and lower highs. We are getting a bit of a bounce off 188, but as my friend Neil usually says, I want to get this on the back end. I haven't seen a back end to this bad boy yet because it's continuing to make lower highs and lower lows. Prove to me that you can start curling up off 188. I don't care. I'll give up a buck. I'll give up 50 cents, but prove to me that you're going to find support at that level before I get involved in this name again. But I'm awfully interested in Tesla at 188. It just has to prove its relevance to me as a level on Tesla. So we're going to wait and see whether this bad boy starts curling back up or whether we start continuing to make lows. More lower highs and lower lows. I got to tell you, VWAP on Tesla on my chart right now is at that 187 and 1/5. So about $1 from where we are right now. So, if 188 doesn't hold, I'm going to be looking at 187, 187 and a quarter as a level of support on TSLA. We're going to start the lesson in a second, but Big Nick Dub, my man Nick Dub there, dropping $5 in the super chat. Thank you very much, Nick. Says Sharif, could you talk about Lilly? I can't talk about Lilly while Adara is here. It's kind of blasphemous. No, I'm kidding, of course. Can you talk about Lilly into earnings? I have a swing up to 50%, trying to figure out where I should be trailing stop. Thanks. Great question. I like your thinking. I like how you're thinking ahead there, looking past earnings and seeing what the play should be. Let's go have a look at Lilly. As Mademoiselle Lilly, as my friend Adara likes to say, Mademoiselle Lilly. So we're going to take off VWAP here because it's distorting the chart a little bit, Adara. So we're going to take it off because VWAP is not important on a daily chart. It's an intraday analysis over here. Apply. Okay, there we go. Adira, look at this monster gap. Look, okay.
Oh my God.
Ram, can you take my picture off? Because I want to make a very emphatic statement here about gaps.
Holy cannoli.
All right, Adira, what do we say about earnings, volume, and gaps? Before I restart the lesson, look at this. Look at that volume. Oh. Anybody telling me that gaps and trends and volume are not connected, well then we're going to ban you in the chat. No, we're kidding. Huh. All right? But look at this, Adira. This is back on August 8th when Mademoiselle Lily reported. At the time, Mademoiselle was at 450 bucks. You came in on the 8th, you come back from that day at work, and all of a sudden, you're $50 in the money because it gapped up above 500 and it has not looked back.
That's spectacular.
And I want to show you this volume. Over here, what would you say the best volume day, other than this one, was? Probably this one over here, right?
I would definitely say that.
That was about 5 million shares. Well, we doubled that on earnings day. This is 10 million shares of volume on this particular day. Guys, when I talk about initiation gaps and volume being like not one and the same, but having to go hand in hand, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Finding this one in the wild, as my friend Adair likes to say. So now, to actually get to Nick Dubb's question. Nick, where are you long, my friend? That's the thing, right? So if you're asking me for where is there a clear level of support that you should be looking at, you should be looking at the $100 level, 600 bucks. If this gap's down below 600 bucks, you have an issue. Below that, we're going to go ahead and say that 570. Look at this long period of consolidation over here where this is the bottom, that 570, 5 2/3 area. But I'm going to have to go and say that $600 area is more important for me. Most importantly, it's where the 50 is. And it's since this huge gap up on Eli Lilly, it's been generally holding the 50 period well. I mean, if you use a 3-day rule, you weren't triggered out of the 50 period here at all. So we'll have to wait and see whether it can gap down and hold the 50 period and hold that 600. Other than that, you know, it's a blue sky setup. We are at all-time highs on Lilly. The all-time high was over here on the 16th when we made a $644 high. That's not even accurate. Today was what? $647 high. Ooh. Yeah, that's all-time highs on Lilly. $647.73. Anything below 600 you may want to trail out at, but there's the other thing here of like, you know, the trend line should be holding trend. I mean, you can extend this trend line too and ends up actually holding real well here. So this was obviously resistance, and you know how resistance becomes support. So that doesn't just apply to, you know, price action levels, it applies to trend lines as well. So previously support, now resistance. So this trend line might be interesting. You can draw the same trend line on your chart, by the way, right? Obviously, goes without saying. So we'll have to wait and see what Lilly does, but great look there. He has options, 645 calls. Okay, interesting. All right, well, I think, you know, based on the current trend, you're going to do well, but we'll have to wait and see what the earnings brings. All right. Let's get to the lesson again. We're talking today about gaps. Specifically, we're talking about initiation gaps, or sometimes as they're referred to as runaway gaps. These bad boys are very important because they typically signal the start of a new trend. So there are 3 types of gaps, right? The one we're talking about today are initiation gaps, but the other ones are called common gaps. These occur regularly and do not indicate a significant change in trend. The other one is called a runaway gap or a measuring gap, and these occur in the middle of a trend and reinforce the existing market direction. That's the kind of gap we'll be talking about tomorrow. But for today, we're talking about breakaway gaps or initiation gaps. These signal the start of a new trend. These gaps often follow a period of consolidation and represent a surge in buying or selling activity. And so therefore, you should be very aware of them, know how to chart them, know how to detect them, because they are often quite indicative of the beginning of a new trend, whether to the high side or the downside. It doesn't make a difference. They are applicable both ways. So what are the characteristics of some of these bad boys? Well, Volume surge. I just finished ranting about how important volume was for breakaway gaps, initiation gaps. They're synonyms, by the way, guys. But the volume surge, initiation gaps are usually accompanied by a notable increase in volume, emphasizing the strength of the new trend. I just showed you that on Lily, and here is an excerpt of Amazon between 2017 and 2018, and it also gapped up through the high end of the channel there and on above average volume. So volume, very important. Make sure to look for the corresponding volume if you think you've identified an initiation gap or what we call a breakaway gap on the chart. Now, there's also a clear trend change when an initiation gap happens. So these gaps indicate a decisive shift in market sentiment, marking the beginning of an uptrend or downtrend. As I just showed you on Lily, and as you can just see here on this chart of Amazon, you continue to pump there through the break of 1,000, and then this chart goes all the way up to 1,340 bucks. So clearly a trend here with higher highs and higher lows subsequent to the initiation gap. And then last but not least, another characteristic of initiation gaps is it's followed by momentum. Surprise, surprise. After an initiation gap, traders often observe sustained momentum in the direction of the gap, providing confirmation of the trend change. So what you're looking for subsequent to the initiation gap are a series of candles which shows the making of higher highs and higher lows, showing that you are continuing to trend to the high side or the low side, whatever the situation. Is there any questions or comments, Adara?
Yeah, no, I think too, what's interesting, and I mentioned this this earlier as well, I think one of the really key things to remember too is that if you're just looking purely at gap fills, especially for points of entry, especially if you're gonna think like longer term trades, right? What's nice is it does kind of ignore pre-market action, or it doesn't take it as much into consideration. Like when you look at the daily candle, especially as Sharif was just saying, he was taking out his pre-market movements from the daily candles, because it does give you a better sense of how the market sentiment is going for that day, right? So it's like something clearly happened either overnight or in the morning to make this candle drop or go up. So it just kind of gives you a sense. And as we were saying earlier too, the bigger the gap, the more significant it is, especially if you do have, I guess then I have a question too, just from me saying that. So I think I know the answer. This might be like the whole balance of the evidence thing, I'm pretty sure. But like what would happen, for example, I guess how would you consider it, just from your perspective, so you don't have to like speak for the entire world here. If you have something where it's like you have a big gap but less volume, or you have a huge amount of volume but a relatively smaller gap. I guess how would you interpret something like
that's
that?
actually very interesting. I don't have the answer to that offhand. I got to tell you the truth. I'd have to see it, maybe analyze it specifically. But if we had a big gap without volume, I would be suspicious on that, because it would show, you know, less market participation. I don't know if that, I'd like to see one where that actually happened. I'd never seen one specifically. Or the above average volume, but with a smaller gap. So I guess what I would look for, first of all, compare it to previous gaps. What were if I could find any previous gap on that particular instrument, how big was the gap and what was the corresponding volume? If this one happened to be below the average, I would be suspicious of it. If it was above the average, I'd be more exuberant about it. Okay. I gotta tell you the truth. So to answer your question, I think offhand, that's how I would take it, but I would probably need to, you know, mull it over a little bit, maybe research it some more, or ask ChatGPT, because, you know, who doesn't do that anymore?
Hey, you appreciate that.
Okay. All right, guys. How to ID an initiation gap. Let's go on to the next topic. We're going to continue to stay with this Amazon example here. Traders use various technical tools technical analysis tools to allow or to identify initiation gaps and to confirm the potential change in trend. The first one, the tool, obviously is a price chart. You're looking for the actual gap on the price chart itself. But in order to ID this properly, like Adara was saying that I just did, remove pre-market action on your daily so that the aftermarket and the pre-market action doesn't show up on your daily chart. I want to see the pre and the post-market on the intraday chart, on my 10, on my 15, on my half. I don't want to see it on my daily because I want to be able to ID those initiation gaps, exhaustion gaps, runaway gaps, continuation gaps, so many different types of gaps on my daily chart. That's where they're most important. So remove pre-market and aftermarket #1 data on your daily charts. That's the first thing. The other thing is you're looking basically for gaps that are accompanied by strong bullish or bearish candles. from going to our lesson last week when we were talking about candlestick patterns, we know one of the most bullish types of candlesticks is one that opens at the bottom and closes at the top with very small upper and lower wicks. Shows that the bulls were absolutely in control. By contrast, a very bearish candle is one that opens at the top and closes at the bottom with very small upper or lower wicks. And that shows that the bears were absolutely in control and the bulls did diddly squat in order to move it back up. So that's what we're looking for there. Does the initiation gap, is it characterized by one of these bullish candles? In addition to that, do we see any bullish candlestick patterns subsequent to the actual gap itself? For example, the bullish engulfing or any of the other bullish candlestick patterns that we talked about last week. So a price chart analysis has to follow here in identifying the initiation gap. The second is a volume analysis. I just finished yapping about this. Initiation gaps are more significant when accompanied by a surge in trading volume. As we see here on the breakout here on AMZN, there is a huge amount of volume to support this big boy move through the upper trend line and the gap up into $1,080 over here off the close of, I believe, like 960. So it was a huge move up supported by above average volume. Analyzing volume patterns helps confirm the strength of the gap. And last but not least, can't get it together today. Initiation gaps often coincide with the breaking of trend lines, signaling a shift from a previous trend to a new one. And what we're looking for here is not just a specific trend line break, but a key break of a resistance level. That could be the $100 level, the $50 level, whatever that resistance level happens to be. Is the gap breaking above that resistance level? If it is, it's awfully a good indicator that this is a real gap and it'll continue to move to the high side or the low side. Any questions or comments?
I do actually have a question on that, and I don't know if this is going to be a moot point because what I'm saying might actually be kind of antithetical to the whole initiation gap thing.
I like that.
But thank you. But I know we were having this conversation about the significance of pre-market moves sometimes being less. Like, for example, you were saying if NVIDIA breaks 600, and you were correct about this, if NVIDIA broke 600 in the pre or the post, it might have a harder time with that level during the intraday,
Absolutely.
right? So I guess with that in mind, if we have an initiation gap and it happens to gap over or above a key level, like say Meta 400, say NVIDIA 600, would that make it more or less significant then, but based on balancing that evidence with sometimes like these, sorry, I'm trying to word this better.
So if it gapped up in the pre, if it broke a key resistance level in the pre-market rather than breaking it after the bell.
Yeah, because I know we were saying sometimes these levels will struggle if they break them in the pre. So I was just wondering if the initiation gap adds a skosh of significance.
It does, because it's not going to be a buck or two on a stock like NVIDIA. Like, what was the gap on NVIDIA that day? Or sorry, the break of I'm
on NVIDIA.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous and failed on the first day.
It did,
So the break of 600 on NVIDIA on the first day failed. It was the second day that continued. So I see what you're saying, but in a situation where you have an initiation gap, it's not going to be like 50 cents or 60 cents above the previous day. It should be a nice move, and obviously the nice move is going to be dependent on the stock itself. Like a $10 gap on NVIDIA is like, I don't know, a 10 penny gap on Fisker. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's really relative.
Absolutely. All right, guys, so those are the 3 ways to ID the initiation gap. And then last but not least, how do you trade this bad boy? So some trading strategies here. Once an initiation gap is identified, traders can implement specific strategies to capitalize on the new trend. The first one, obviously, is a trend following system. Like I am myself, I like to follow the trend. Rarely will you see me in a mean reversion trade or a counter trend trade. Rarely, obviously I do from time to time, but I am more trend following. So in this case, initiation gaps are often used as entry points for trend following strategies aiming to ride the momentum to the new trend. So why is this important to identify that we're in a trend? Because there are specific types of trading strategies that are only relevant during trending periods and not consolidated periods. If you recall, I talked to you guys a lot about moving averages and their use or lack of use depending on whether we're trending or consolidating. Moving averages will often give you false signals during consolidative markets. So if you're ranging between $100, $120 for 6 months, and you have the 50 breaking above the 200, then breaking below, then breaking above it, you are likely going to get cut up if you are using a trend following system, like moving average crossovers, right? You have to make sure that we are trending, not consolidative, before you use certain strategies. And this is the one which can help you determine whether or not we're trending or consolidating, because it breaks above a key resistance level. That's what you're looking for the initiation gap, for it to be breaking either above a trend line, a key horizontal level that was holding the price down, a key price level that was historical on the daily chart, what have you, okay? So you're always trying to identify, are we in a consolidative market or are we in a trending market? And this is one of the ways you're able to do that. And then you're also looking for confirmation signals for the initiation gap break. So what you want to do is you want to look at what the moving averages are doing. The one that I just gave the example of, the 50 and the 200, the golden cross, has the 50 crossed above the 200 on the initiation gap, or does it cross it maybe 3-4 days later? That shows you, okay, yes, so I got one piece of evidence on Monday, and then I got another piece of evidence on Thursday. I think we are trending here on Tesla. I'm just giving you a random example, okay? So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for other confirmation indicators to show you that the initiation gap is the start of a new trend. Because once you determine we're trending, then you have a different set of strategies that you can employ to trade.
I like that. So it's like what we talk about in general. One thing that I appreciate that you really hammer home here in the midday is that you can't, don't get into something just because you have one element that's working, right? Sorry, how to trade. I said the midday, but we are how to trade. So I have slandered us there. But we are. Thank you so much, Fabian and Ramin, for putting up the banner there. My apologies. But yeah, so basically, I think what I was trying to say there before I accidentally misnamed us was that. I think it really goes back to the idea of not getting into a trade based on one factor. You really want to have a whole bunch. You want confluence. As Obi said, certain things will get magnetized to certain levels, and I think you want generally all of that coming together in a beautiful little soup to kind of really make you confident to enter that trade. So I guess I'm going to keep with the soup analogy because why not? So it's if you want to, pardon?
How about pho?
Yeah, you could do pho as well. I can't say pho very well, but yeah. So I think whatever you want, you need the broth. So let's say broth is, I don't know, your moving average, you're above your moving average. You want you want everything that you need for confirming factors to enter that trade. You want that to be there. So one element can make your ears perk up. It can make you take notice, as Sharif was saying. That initiation gap can make you take notice, but don't jump in all willy-nilly just because you have that initiation gap. It goes back also, another example that I appreciate. That Sharif has given with small caps, that's really opened my eyes, is you don't get involved in small cap unless you have that pre-market break of the pre-market high and above VWAP. If not, you are outie. And I think that's another really key example of having things that you rely on to kind of look for points of entry or for confirmation. Also, sorry, I just want to quickly address the super chat that we had earlier.
Market's pumping, by the way.
Randy H, $2 super chat. Will you consider black backgrounds on charts?
What?
Will you consider black backgrounds on charts?
Oh, we're not allowed.
We're not, yeah.
Yeah, from the top, we got to use white charts, and so, yeah. And
thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, thank you for
sorry,
that.
the market is pumping.
I have some black charts on the side, but I use those in gray market territory. If I'm told by the higher ups I got to switch it, I'm going to switch it. Guys, we got a 17.6 break, 17.609.5. So now we're on futures watch. Okay. The reason is we want to see if we're going to straddle VWAP from above 600 or we're going to give up the ghost, right? Here's the chart on the MNQ right now. We're watching here how we do at this particular level. Very, very interesting here to see whether or not we can hold 17.6. We got a break of 160 on Amazon. We got a break of 400 on Meta. Not much else with respect to key levels on anything else here. I'm talking about Microsoft, Apple, Google, and NVIDIA. They're I don't want to say no man's land, but they're not at key resistance or support levels. We got a dip there below 15.6 right now. Do we get bought up immediately and pushed above 15.6? So now that we are at this 100-point level, I'm going to be watching the futures quite closely here to see whether or not we do the wick shimmy dance from the top or the bottom. and viewers on the show will know exactly what I'm talking about. What's up, James? Thank you very much for joining us, my friend. Welcome to tradertv.live. You've caught us on the How to Trade show, formerly known as Midday. We do a little bit of trading, a little bit of teaching, and then the big kahunas take over at 2 o'clock, and they take you into Power Hour, and it's all trading there. We also got Jameson, not with earnings, right? What do you mean? What do you mean, Jameson? I think you're probably responding to something I just said, but tag me, let me know exactly what you're referring to, and then I'll tell you. So JJ, the wick shimmy dance, let me explain to you what I'm talking about, because if you're a new trader, you're probably, what the hell is this guy talking, or a new viewer. No, I'm not doing it, Ram. Ram wants me to do the wick shimmy dance so she can make me look like a fool and put me on the gram. What I mean by that, JJ, come to the chart, Ram, if you're able to, is when we get above a key level, like let's just say 17.6 right now on the future, okay? So you see how we're breaking below 17.6 and we're not really holding that level? What I'm looking for is once we break through a certain level, do we break it from the high side and then dip down to it only to bounce back off again? So for example, you move up to say 17.620, right? And then you come back into 17.6. Are you getting bought up off 17.6? Are the buyers stepping in, overwhelming sellers at that 100-point level and saying, no, you don't. We're staying above 17.6 for today. Sorry. Or do you give up that level on 17.6 and start straddling it from the downside? So you start bouncing up into 17.6 from the low 17.59s, for example. So which way are you straddling that key resistance level? From the top side or the low side? If it's from the low side, typically what you will is reject, and you're going to go right back down. If you straddle it from the high side and you're bouncing off 17.6, you're typically going to continue to trend to the upside. So that's what I mean by the wick shimmy dance. It's a joke, because what's happening is the price action keeps bouncing into or off that key resistance or support level, and that's kind of how we make a determining factor of where we're going to trend on the future, right? At least it's my style. So I hope that helps. Neil, if it's not a real dance, boo. All right. Neil, that's funny.
Oh.
Hugh. Hey, what's up, Shaq? That is a little wick shimmy dance.
I like his face too. He looks very mischievous while he does it.
Yeah,
He's like,
he's hilarious. I love Shaq. Yeah.
Shaq is the best energy.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh goodness, yes. You know that somebody like has somebody owns the rights to his likeness and all his commercials. He sold his likeness, the rights to his likeness, to somebody, and so he sold it for a lump sum payment. And then anytime his likeness generates money, the other dude or whoever it is makes money off that. But Shaq sold it to him. Can you believe that? Isn't that cool?
That's wild. Yeah, I mean, learning a new thing every day, I do have to say. Yeah, go Shaq. And I like that he also has his own little wick shimmy dance.
He does.
Also, sorry,
I just wanted to talk. This is exactly what I'm talking about, the wick shimmy dance. Look how we popped up into 17.609, and then we said, nuh-uh, I don't feel like being up here. And then we straddle it from the downside. Look at us move right back down on the future right now. 17 low 580s. This is what I'm talking about, the wick shimmy dance. When you get to that key 100-point level or whatever key resistance level it is, it doesn't only have to be 1 point. Are you straddling it from the top side or the downside? Right now, we're straddling it from the downside and we're giving up the ghost. But let's see if I'm proved wrong and whether or not the market claims 17.6 and we continue to pump back up. The wiki shuffle. I like that, James Dell. I can go for that. The wiki shuffle. All right, Adara, interrupted you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I appreciate that you pointed that out. So because we like in the wild examples here, and that was giving you an in the wild example. Yeah. Question. So that was a terrible French accent there. But basically, is the wick shimmy dance, is it only happening on the NQ, or can it happen in any really active asset?
I personally don't use it for equities. I use it for the future. And the reason is because I don't use level 2 on the future, and I will use it on equities. So I'll be looking to see the level 2 for support and resistance. So I won't look for the wick shimmy dance.
Okay.
Right?
Appreciate
no problem calling it the wick shimmy dance. Great question, though. It's just like in the way that I don't use chart patterns on the future, I use support and resistance, right? And
so you're just using different elements, and one of those different elements is The Wick Shimmy dance. Cool. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
T-Money says, but I'm not a rapper. It's all good. Finch Jane, for sure. Okay, he's talking to somebody else. Relationship facts. Where can we get free time NQ F quotes? Look, I know that TradingView has them, but they are delayed. I don't have a good source to get them free. I pay my brokerage for futures data. So I don't have a good answer for that. Katina, man, do you happen to know anywhere? Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one. Say that again? Delayed 15 minutes on TradingView. I will ask for you, my friend, relationship facts. If anybody knows in the chat, feel free to. Katina Man said pre-Pro 8, which is our software, which obviously we get. I'm sorry, dude, but relationship facts, I don't have one. I'll ask around. If someone in the chat knows, yeah, absolutely. Janesh Patel, please make that explanation into a YouTube video. Did you hear that, Ram? She's like, yeah, pretty much, go away. All right.
You're always bullying Ram.
What do you mean? She was bullying me.
I know, I'm joking. You guys bully each other.
We're pumping into a high of day again on Meta, by the way, guys. Juan Velasco, Sharif, how did you like Ladakh? Jackson's gameplay. Oh my God, Ladakh Jackson. Did you see that? Not Lamar Jackson. Look, I didn't watch the AFC Championship game. I just saw it like quickly because Egypt was playing Congo yesterday, and we ended up losing in penalties. So I was watching that, and then I watched the NFC Championship game. I thought it was one of the better games. I feel really bad for Detroit, I gotta tell you the truth. Especially Jared Goff, man. I mean, I wanted him to reach a Super Bowl, but it was not to be. And it's gonna be your boy Brock, who it happens to be the deal of a lifetime. This guy is on a 4-year contract where he's getting paid less than $1 million a year. Obviously, he's probably going to make a bit more with these endorsements and whatever he's making outside of football. But he chose to sign a 4-year deal rather than a 2-year deal for the rookie quarterback. And so they've been printing off this guy. Imagine going to the Super Bowl and you're making less than $1 million a year. So, but good for him, though. I got to tell you, I didn't like the way he played in the first half, but he came back like we all know he could in the second half. Because, well, we've seen what he's done all year. So shout out to Brock Purdy. I don't like San Francisco as a Dallas fan, obviously owing to the history there in the early 90s. But, hey, they are obviously the team. They were the team picked to obviously win the NFC East. And so that looks like it's materializing. Guys, we have a bunch of small cap gappers that are absolutely flying to the high side here. So we're going to have to mention these. NEXI is moving. It's up 100%. It just started pumping. It just broke 11 bucks. We have FGEN started pumping midday as well. So there's a lot of small cap gappers. Let's put them on here. Take some of these dead ones off. NEXI. Here's the NEXI chart. Look at the rocket known as NEXI. Guys, we closed out at 5 1/3 on Friday. We just broke 11 2/3 on this bad boy. Yeah, it's up 103%, Adara. This one getting going midday here. The volume really starting to come in at 12 o'clock. Adara's doing the money thing with her hands there, so we're going to drop the cash. NEXI. Keep your eye on this one. This one does seem like a former runner. Let's look at the daily chart. It is. I remember it too. Yeah. Yeah. As you can see here, obviously a former runner owing to these huge wicking days. So this one getting going again on the day. Be careful with this one though. I'll tell you quickly what the float is on this bad boy. Company profile, 766,000 shares. Sub 1 million, okay? That should tell you all you need to know about that. Let's check the float on NEXI, figure out whether the short float is important or not. 3.6% of the 700 some odd shares are short. It's not a big one. I don't want to say it's negligible, but not, not eye-watering or anything. The other one, FGEN, this bad boy getting going as well, up 64%, Adara. So this one getting going as well midday, started around 10:30 or so. This one, much larger float, 92 million share float. The short float on FGEN, much bigger, 15.25% of this float is shorted. So definitely not like negligible. Can't talk today. I don't know what's going on. That $1.40 though, Ram. See that? See that, Ram?
Oh my God.
Yeah, that bug in there. This keeps bouncing off VWAP Adara, breaking through that 1.5. Good look there on FGen.
That bounce, that hold and bounce is crazy. And you're right, like FGen was just randomly popping in the morning. Like I started to see the updates on trade ideas and I was like, huh, what's he doing? So yeah, but that hold specifically, and also the fact that the hold is at VWAP, I think really key as well, because like we said, VWAP not always going to be an area of interest for every stock, but certainly if something is doing something interesting around VWAP, it is the level that, as OB said, stocks will kind of magnetize towards sometimes, right? So I think if we have something interesting going on at VWAP, definitely keep an eye on this. Also, I am in the Cybertruck to the downside. I got in at that 188 area. I liked that sort of almost the spinning top, but definitely basically, we were talking about candlesticks yesterday, that long failed wick of buyers. Then we had that nice movement down. I did get involved in this kind of mid movement, but basically I watched us get to that 188. Come back down, come back up to 188 and hold 188 like a glove. I would be interested in reloading this depending on what we do with that 188.30, 188.40 area. If we eclipse it, if we go way higher than that, I will be saying au revoir. One of the big things I've been trying to work on this week and last week, because really what I'm trying to do is elevate my trading game in some way as I learn in the sim every day and every week I trade, right? So the last couple days, and I guess last week as well, what I've been working to, last couple days, it's been a weekend, the last week, what I've been working towards is working on my position sizing and potentially reloading, right? So how do I exit positions? How many beak wetters am I taking to get out? Will I reload? And I think having potential reloads baked into my trading ideas, like, you know, a filling in a cake or something, or like a secret pistachio you find hidden in the cake. So with this, I got in here knowing that, hey, we're not getting top wick, but you know what? Depending on how we hold at top wick, especially given all of that, this failed wick to the upside here, depending on how we do, I may get in, I may add to this position. I'm also watching, I'm looking at, hey, we'll get to this 188.20 and then we'll give it back. As I say it, we're kind of in the process of giving it back. Although who knows, you know, the thing is markets do behave irrationally, so I need to be cognizant of that. But just based on past movement, I can kind of look and say, hey, this is where I'd like to reload. Should a reload present itself? This is where I'd like to exit. Should this fall through, right? So I'm really trying to work on being more practical and having really clear plans for the trades, and part of those plans are now starting to include different ways to get in and out. That's basically been my whole, my move du jour, I guess, in this last week as well. Just some men? I don't know. But also, I'm in this square short. I got out of this one way too early initially. I did get nervous, this VWAP bounce, but then I also noticed, like, we have not really made a new higher high in here, and I really like this area of consolidation around that that 67.90. So I was like, if we decisively break 68, I'm out. We have not even really eclipsed or gotten near eclipsing 68 since I've gotten in. We get to that 68.790, and then we fall back down. I am slightly nervous here at our inability to make a new lower high, and actually, as I look at this, this could be a reverse head and shoulders or an inverse head and shoulders, with this being the head shoulder at 67.55, 67.56, another shoulder. So I'm a little bit nervous about this, except we are still up 4% in the day. So that to me kind of is not a huge inverse head and shoulder tell, because usually that's when we're down on the day. But of course, markets can surprise you. Patterns will do what they want to do. So I want to be aware of all of these. We'll also, you know, recognizing as long as we still hold true to what we've been seeing, I'm comfortable staying in this trade. I just don't want the decisive break above 68. I also did reload because that 67.60 area has been key. We held it decently when I got in because this is a 5-minute candle, and then of course when I got in, we ran up. But the fact that we have not made a new high, I'm okay hanging out in this. How's meta going?
It's good. I just got in, like literally just got in. Let's see if we can hold this 400 level. I'll be looking to add if it dips back into the 10-period moving average at that 40.25 level. Someone was asking me, do we have any auctions today? What's going on? So we already had 2 auctions. They were both shorter duration. We had the 3-month and the 6-month, both came in at 11:30. You know, they're both prints lower than last time, but that's not the accurate comparison. We'll have to wait and see. I don't follow the 3 and the 6 months, so I can't look at what they're trading at right now and see how the auctions yield went relative to current status. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what we get there. Long meta, looking for a 4-1 break. We are at pivot number 2. So I've got a beak wetter at 85. We have a lot of strength on Meta and on Amazon. I think that these two would be the outliers of the day. Tesla was obviously the outlier early on. It gave back a little bit. It's trying to curl a little bit off 188. Very small size here on Meta because it's a breakout level. So we're just wetting our beak a little bit. And we are above, again, 17.6 on the future. So we do get bought up aggressively off that 17.580-ish level. Now we're at 17.604, but we really need to distance ourselves from 17.6 here and not just wick into it 5-6 points above, 10 points above, and then retrace right back down. So the market's really going to have to get going here if we're going to hold this level. We'll look for a bounce on Meta here at 4.25. Otherwise, a 400 break to the sell side is going to end this trade for me, and we'll take a loss. So we'll see what we get. But very small size on META, looking to add possibly at that dip if it dips a little bit more than where it's currently dipping right with the moment. SEK, I don't know what currency that is, but thank you, Volcan, for
I think it's Swedish kroner.
Swedish kroner, it is correct,
yeah.
yes. What is your view on SMCI and AMD? Look, for day trading, SMCI much harder. It's quite spready. AMD a lot easier, obviously, to trade. For a long term, I really like SMCI and both AMD. I like both of them. The AMD PE is a little scary, though. It's about 1,400 currently. So we'll have to wait and see. Do you want to have a look at the SMCI chart from here while I figure out my meta trade?
Oh, so I did add on to Tesla at that area I talked about, that 188.30. We're holding it pretty well so far. Just keeping an eye out, being very cognizant of what it is doing. But let's pull up Super Micro and see if it will have a Super Macro move today after earnings, right? No, I'm joking. I have no idea what it'll do at earnings, but I can look at the chart. Right now on the today, we're just kind of compressing a little bit here. Lower highs, higher lows. That's the look right now on SMCI. But let's look at that daily chart here. Yeah, I mean, this one's in quite literally uncharted territory, uncharted water here, right? Like, look at that. We had that move up after that that higher than expected, I guess that increase in their guidance here. But look at that. I think definitely in terms of levels, this flat bottom kind of interesting. We had, well, this is actually, you know, kind of resistance becoming support. We had a little bit of resistance here, that 266. Then we had a bottom just below that 238 here, 1, 2, 3. Then we started to make, I'm going to draw another trend line, these slightly higher lows. So another touch at 238. Then we had another 260 touch coming back into that previous area of resistance. Then we have a 280. Then we have a 320. And then we have that big move up where we gapped up here on the that higher than expected guidance. So I think, yeah, coming into earnings, we're in quite literally uncharted waters. I think what would be interesting is kind of where we closed off that big move we made. So after like, what, 1, 2, 3 candles, I want to say? Yeah, I think that this kind of like last hurrah, I guess, for this one and for a bit, that 430, 460 area could be interesting. But generally, I will admit it's a little bit hard to say just because this one kind of quite literally sprung out from out of nowhere on that move. I will say generally, though, this one continues to have these higher trends. We'll get into a bit of a consolidation move and then spring right back up here, especially that 238 bottom. Definitely a nice movement up for SMCI from that. And I think the issue too with it, I think one thing to keep in mind, I guess, too, with this one going into earnings, we did have that higher, that increase in guidance. So I'd be like curious to see, can we meet this higher guidance? I think that would definitely be something to keep an eye on. In terms of the chart, though, definitely a bit harder to chart just because of that big move up. But I would say looks like I don't, you know, maybe I'll ask Shrif's opinion on this when he gets back, but I think that maybe a bit of an initiation gap here just because we did have outsized volume and we did have a move out of a decided flat-esque trend there. I can pull up AMD a little bit here as well. AMD reporting after close on Tuesday. So that'll be one to keep an eye on alongside Microsoft and Google. So that big earnings day, one of many big earnings days this week. Yeah, AMD also too going to be a little bit interesting. We had this a lot interesting. We had a bit of a downward trend here, a bit of a double top actually at this 132 area, that 132 vicinity. Then we comb back down, we get into a bit of a downward trend, have a November to remember, bouncing off this bottom on Halloween and a nice move up. And then a bit of a double top around 150, bounce again off that 135, coming back and we've had a bit of consolidation the last week, so it'll be really interesting to see what AMD can do. But I think SMCI, and I'll pull this up to show Sharif here, I think SMCI almost a bit of an initiation gap here off of earnings, because we had that decided consolidated trend, this triple touch of that 238 area, and then a big move up.
Yeah, holy, the wicks really obscure that, but you're absolutely right.
I found that a little hard to read.
Yeah,
too.
It's a bit of a tougher read on that particular chart, but you're absolutely right there. Great move up. The whole chart is an initiation gap, Adara, my goodness, because it has been pumping to the high side, well, for most of 2023, especially from the spring onwards. So we'll have to see how we do there. Are you okay? There we go. Guys, we rejected off the 17.6 again. So how many times are we going to do that pop into 17.6 only to reject? Last time we held the 20 period, which is the yellow line on my chart. Let's see if we hold it this time, but we got a couple of lower highs there off that 17.609.5 touch. So 17.6 proving an elusive barrier to break at the moment, and likely will have a bearing on this meta trade that I'm in at the moment, right? We've been getting a nice bounce off the 10 period moving average on meta on the 5, but for how long, especially if the future rejects 17.6 and makes its way down. So if we get a decided break of 400, that's going to be the end of the trade for me on meta. We're going to have to hold this level for me to remain in this trade. But yeah, looks like the future right now, undecided about what direction it wants to go into, or which direction it wants to trend in. So we'll have to wait and see here what we get on META. Rock Doc, Adara printing on Tesla trade. Are you printing on Tesla?
Yeah.
Well, how come it's not showing on the board?
Oh, I just took it out. That's
oh,
why.
You just took it. I gotcha. All right.
But yeah, it was a short. Thank you to
Hit the
Rock
money.
Doc. Glenn Smith was also saying in the chat, take a piece out of Tesla, and that was right where I was about to take out my piece, so thank you for that. Basically, I know I didn't stay in this too long, but that's because it was so rangy. I was really concerned about our ability to go decisively below that 187. I initially had my out set at 187.76. But you know I watch the book like a hawk when I'm in these scalpier trades.
Yes.
I noticed we were struggling with 187.76, so I switched it to 187.78. That ended up working for Tesla. This was a case of, like I said, I'm practicing reloading. I did reload here because I watched for a while us hold that 188.30, and I said, you know what? Let's add a little bit here. I'm trying to be a bit more decisive because, to quote Sean, a scared trader is an efficient trader. And I'm trying to be a bit more of an efficient trader. And I think practicing reloading within reason when it's part of my plan is kind of part of that. And I said, why this was part of my plan too is I did get about mid wick here. I don't know how to say it. It's not top wick, it's not bottom wick. It's like mid, it's like meh. You know what I mean? But I got back into the top of this range, or I guess added to the top of this range. Pretty small position overall. And I like where I got out because it's kind of around where we're still bouncing. So yeah, thank you to Rock Doc and people in the chat. Pretty happy with this. Chill Vibe saying she took profit and ran. Yeah, that really was the goal. I was trying to hop out of that Cybertruck before it drove back up. But I mean, this is, I think, kind of going back to my older style of trading too, although I'm implementing this new fun thing called reloading. Shout out to Sean, who has always the reloading there. But I think too, like I'm trying to add these reloads and also just get back to what I like doing, which is scalping and ranges. So trying to marry my styles there a little bit.
It.
Also, I'm still in that square short and it's doing nothing. It is doing nothing. It's still valid. The trade is still valid to shout out to Sharif because we haven't made decisive breakout of that 67.80. And I think because of all this consolidation, should we fall, we may fall with a vengeance. But yeah, it's just an update on that. And the update is there's no update.
And they got an upgrade today.
They did. So that was why I was a little bit scared of taking the short. But I mean, we definitely fell off of that earlier move up here.
Gotcha.
Which is why I kind of got involved. That VWAP bounce made me a little bit nervous, but we haven't really done anything momentous with it. So that is what
and we don't even know who this is. Even Brendo was like, who's Monet, Crespi, and Hardit? Reiterating a buy.
What that was.
Yeah, no, I hadn't heard of him either. You're not on your own with that. I think we're almost at 110. Should we start that lesson?
Yeah. Oh, I did not even realize it was 110.
We're past one now, baby.
Time has flown.
It
yeah.
has.
Okay. Let's get to this lesson. Thank you for reminding me. This market has just been so engrossing today.
It has.
I really have to.
Do you want me to send you that picture of Amazon?
Thank you
so
so
that
much.
You can use
yeah.
it? Okay, sure. No
Appreciate that because that way you can like just do your trades.
Yes, no problem. Give me a sec. You can just start it off.
Yeah, I can just start off. Thank you so much. So we're talking. There are 3 types of gaps we're going to be talking about this whole week: common gaps, breakaway gaps, and runway gaps, or initiation gaps. So you can call them either name, but they really, I think both names are accurate because initiation gap does correctly imply that it's going to be starting a new move, which these gaps do. But also the other thing that it implies is, so I'm just trying to get this.
There you go. Yeah. So annoying, eh? Right click on it. Can you say open an image in new tab? If you're right there, is that option or no? Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Wait, I think I got it.
Smart.
Thank you.
There you go. Zoom in on
Gonna
that bad boy.
zoom in. Oh, there we go.
Pretty good.
That's better. I was like a little too close up at one point. But yeah, so thank you so much for sending this to me, Sharif. But yeah, so what I was saying just based on the name of this, what I wanted to address that I think is interesting is so it is kind of a runaway movement, kind of out of nowhere, which is why runaway is an apt name, but also initiation because it's basically what we're showing here. And the example is this, I apologize, slightly blurry Amazon daily chart here. What it shows too is it's initiating this new movement. We have a breakout of a certain trend and then we push to the upside or downside, because I also, as much as we're using this bullish example, it can also be bearish. They are, it's not fractal, but it's so kind of in the same way we talk about things being fractal. That is what we see with some of these gap fills. So basically, what are some of the characteristics of an initiation gap? There are three key aspects that we want to talk about. Volume surge, clear trend change, and followed by momentum.
Bang.
Apologize for pointing really aggressively there. Volume surge. So this is what happens with these gaps, especially initiation gap, is you really want a notable increase in volume to come with this gap. So you want like this big move up or down with a huge push in volume. That Eli Lilly example that Sharif showed in the daily, I think was really key with Eli Lilly earnings, that $50 move up, so massive gap up, and 10 million in volumes. That was twice the other large amount of volume we'd seen in Eli Lilly. And we know Eli Lilly has a hard time doing a milli. So 10 milli on Lilly, super significant. And this Amazon example here also shows, look at this initiation gap compared to the next amount of volume we had, which was also ironically a gap. That's actually interesting too. If we go back further on this chart, this was a gap to the downside, but a little bit less significant. And then our biggest amount of volume here is that initiation gap. So I think that's interesting. And why you want this volume is because it will really emphasize the strength of a new trend. It's not just a couple people running into this movement to the upside. It is a lot of people. It is not negligible. Shout out to Sharif. You really want that intense movement accompanied by that intense volume. And that will also bring us to our second aspect of characterizing one of these, which is going to be a clear trend change. So you really want to see this decisive shift in market from this consolidative movement to a clear move up. The stock's saying, now we're going to take the elevator to the upside or the downside. We're moving out of this current pattern we've been in, breaking the status quo, shout out to High School Musical, and making this new movement. So I think that's really key here as well. And it really does decisively, in addition to this volume, mark this new trend. But what else do you need? You really want this momentum. So after the initiation gap, you really want to see extra movement following in that direction, and this will provide confirmation of the trend change. And this is also why I think what I was finding interesting, and Sharif and I were talking about this at length throughout the day, the fact that why gap fills are cool is because you're ignoring whatever happened pre-market. A lot of times we'll have this big movement in pre-market and it'll kind of peter out. With this, you are ignoring the petering out. You're waiting for the gap to actually occur and show itself at 9:30 when that market opens and when that bell is rung by me or whoever rings the bell. So I think that's, I think that like all different things you're looking for, right? And I was asking Sharif earlier too, I said, what happens if you have a big gap fill but less volume, or a lot of volume but a smaller gap? And so what you were kind of saying is it really is going to depend on the balance of the evidence. It's going to depend on multiple factors, but generally that gap is going to be more significant is if we have that momentum, shout out to Sharif, momentum trader over here, that clear trend change and that volume surge, because that shows people are here, there are lots of people moving it, and there is significant interest in moving this thing to the upside. Also, as always, if anyone has any gaps they'd like to show us in the wild so we can kind of talk about it, because as I learn, it's cool to see examples of things that are initiation gaps, things that have some of the characteristics of initiation gaps.
Yes.
I think, so if anyone has anything, I'd love to always see it.
And if you guys have them, tag me in the chat so I can bring them up while she talks, because I don't think, you need to focus on teaching. Tag me and I'll put them up in the chat for you, Adair.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much there. But that brings us to our second topic, not four, I just used 2P sides, but second topic here today, which is going to be how do you identify this initiation gaps other than the characteristics we just pointed out, right? So you want to look at price chart analysis. As Sharif said, looking at previous volume, I think that Eli Lilly example that you did was really apt. So thank you very much for that. And that showed, compared to other Eli Lilly volume, that was significant volume and that was a significant gap to the upside. So I think that's really key and something to look at. And I'm also just laughing at Neil's chat here because I saw you laughing
Neil,
like that.
Bro.
Like that when Neil posts something salty in the chat.
Let me just, can I live can I live the loss down? It's not like the Bills did amazing either, man. But yet somehow I'm the one getting trolled still for Dallas's loss. Look what Neil wrote in the chat. If you are looking for big gaps, just have a look at that Cowboys D-line when it matters. Why am I the subject of all the vitriol here? I'm just trying to live my life, man. Like, sorry. Thank you. Come on, like that wasn't directed at me. Go ahead, Darren.
Sorry, I just enjoyed that. I apologize for interrupting that lesson, but I thought that was pretty funny.
It
And I
was
always
funny.
enjoy these fun back and forths with you two in the chat related to football, usually. So I think, yeah, really just want to look at that price chart analysis. And again, this brings us to our second point, volume analysis. Ramin, I'm assuming
Ram
trying to
is
get
like,
a fight
I
started
want
in here.
blood, eh?
Yeah.
Jeez, Ram.
But yeah, so you want to look at the price chart analysis. You want to see that gap in comparison to other movement, especially with the chart analysis. You want to see, have we actually decisively broken out and into a new trend? Because that is part of what we're looking for with that. So that's something we need in addition to volume analysis. And again, I really want to shout out Sharif's wonderful analysis of Eli Lilly for that super chat from Nick W. Shout out to Nick W. And I just think that was, a really key example of looking at a price chart that also is in confluence with that gap with significant volume, and analyzing a volume pattern can help confirm the strength of the gap. So even, like I said, I'm going to go back to this Amazon example here. Look at this giant volume we had with that gap up. Last time we had a volume like that, a little bit less volume, but it was also a gap. It was a gap down. So it shows us we have a stronger gap than the previous one because we have more volume. This is also a bigger move than the previous one, and also a more decisive break out of a pretty solid consolidative trend. So I think that's definitely something of note. And really, like we said, you don't want to see just one element of this. You want to see all these factors. You want to see the higher volume. You want to see that trend break. I don't know why I clapped so aggressively, but just you want to really see the whole picture instead of just moving on one thing. As Sharif always says, and I always appreciate, balance of the freaking evidence. That is what I want to say there. Also, trend line break is another aspect. I just kind of, I guess, spoke over that. But basically, you really want an initiation gap. Often they will coincide with the breaking of a trend line. Also, what I think is interesting about this Amazon example is we broke out of the trend line and we were near the bottom of the trend. So that's an even bigger move. It's not like we were at the top of the trend line and then broke up higher. We broke out from the bottom of the trend. So I think that's really key. I think that's really something of note. I think it shows the significance of some of these gap fills. And no two gap fills are necessarily, or sorry, gaps are necessarily going to be alike, as we said. It's really going to depend on that whatever combination you do have of relative volume, of that extra volume, of that big move up or down. You really want all of it together to make a nice, tasty initiation gap soup or pho. As Sharif was saying. Last but not least, trading strategies. So how do you trade these? One aspect to keep in mind: trend following. Sharif, trend trader, momentum trader. You mentioned this earlier. So really, initiation gaps can be used as entry points for trend following strategies because you want to ride that momentum of the new trend. You see that consolidation end, and you're like, hey, what's this new trend? And also, that's why I think it's interesting too, looking at gaps specifically, because you're ignoring whatever happened in the pre-market. All you know is that we gapped up or down. That's what really matters. Is then you can join in the intraday action, knowing that we had that gap fill, knowing that we had that push to the upside. So I think that's pretty key as well. Confirmation signals, the other aspect of this. So you don't want to just move in because you saw that initiation gap. No. Old man hands coming, the grandpa hand coming back again here, right? So I think it's really important to note that even though you do have some confirmation with inherent in the initiation gap. And by that I mean, in order to confirm initiation gap, you already need to have proof of volume and a break of trend, right? But in addition to that, maybe you have some other confluence. As we were saying, a strong initiation gap over a key price level. So for example, if NVIDIA 600 were to have happened in a giant initiation gap, a giant gap up in that case, or Meta 400, right? So like we said, some pre-market action into these moves is going to be less significant, but if it happens in an initiation gap, if you have this giant gap, then that's going to be a little bit more of a sign, especially if we're already breaking out of this trend, right? So basically, the more evidence you have to prove your case beyond a reasonable doubt, shout out to the law, I don't know. I think that is generally a better sign. You want more evidence rather than less evidence. So even though you do have to have some confirming or confirmatory aspects to even confirm an initiation gap, that should not be enough. You want some extra sprinkles on top there. Shout out to Salt Bay to really confirm that this trend is of note. Also, Neil, I apologize to Neil. Say shout out to the law. I am the law. So shout out to Neil and the law.
We done?
We are done.
We
yeah.
are done.
On that
All right,
note.
guys. Great. Thank you for that summary, Adara. While Adara was talking, Meta has been doing a sideways consolidation here, trying to hold 400. I already have my stop in place. This breaks double eights. I'm out 399 double eights. We'll give up about 80 pennies on that trade. But the one that is not looking back at the moment and is continuing to pump to the high side, unabated to the high side here, is Amazon. We are through Friday's high at that 160.72, and now we have a new high of day there at 160.99 on this bad boy. Let's see if we can continue to stay up at this level. 161 eluding us for now with those 99 prints. We were looking at this last time. We're not at all-time highs on Amazon even after the split. Let's look at the weekly here. We still have several different levels to go. You know, it's going to be like probably the $10 levels here, like the 170, maybe even the 175s. We have a couple of wicks back in September 2020 and February 2021 into 175. So that's going to be interesting. The all-time high, though, split adjusted, is going to be that 188, I think, over here back on July 12th. Yeah, July 12th, 2021. Or the week of July 12th, we got to 188.65. How about this week over here? 188.11. Yeah, so this is 188.65, the ultimate high here on Amazon. They did a 20-to-1 split, you'll recall, in May, or the last week of May, I believe, of 2022. So we'll have to see whether or not we can continue to head to highs here. You know, not surprising that this one hit all-time highs during the pandemic. I mean, everybody was ordering off Amazon back then. So obviously numbers were inflated, and then there was all sorts of talk about how people would continue to shop and you know, how their lives would be subsequent to the pandemic, and you know, whether or not they would go back into retail stores. So this, that, and the other, you guys know the whole story. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not we can continue to make those highs on AMZN. Now, for our purposes, though, we're hoping for, not hoping, I hate to use that word, I am desiring a 17.6 break and a 17.6 break and hold, because we're involved in this trade on Meta, and I don't think Meta is going to hold 400 or at least pump into 401 if we continue to make lower highs and lower lows on the future. So in order for us to change this trend, we're going to have to bust above that 17.6 level. But so far, we've been doing the wick shimmy dance from the south side. So we've been rejecting off 17.6. That's my man Shaq. Ram had it ready, queued up. I love it. We've been doing the 17.6 dance from the south side, not the north side. So we'll have to wait and see whether or not you know, the future can help propel Meta to the high side here. Curling to the higher side on the Mag 7 names, not too many to speak of. I guess maybe Google could be one of those ones. We're getting a bit of a bull flag forming here south of 152 and a third, or sorry, 2/3, pardon me. That happens to be like the consolidative high, 152 and 2/3. We're in the 152 high 50s now. Google's been stair-stepping up higher highs and higher lows. Still though, south of that implied balance high at 152.84, we haven't made our way quite up there yet. Meta's still at 400. My goodness. How long are we going to stay consolidative on this name? You know, it probably had a big move up already, so unsurprising that it is finding some resistance now. Alan Sebastian, SoFi, second push. I haven't looked at SoFi since I got on the midday or the how to trade. So let's have a look right now. Take off OMMD and let's put in SOFI. Here's the look on SoFi. So we were south of VWAP after making that big move up through 945, not quite to 9.5. Now we're back at 9, and 9 and VWAP are kind of very close. 904 VWAP, so about 4 pennies above that whole dollar level. Let's see if we can break and hold above VWAP and $9. So that's going to be interesting. We did base out at an area where you expect us to base out, 875. That was a bit of a support level earlier around that 920 to about 940 time slot, and then again held up between 12 and about 1230, where that this was the low. So let's see if we can continue to break back up. But SoFi, keep your eye on volume here. If we're going to start trending back up, look for outsized volume. Right now, volume's on a declining angle. So it's been lower highs here on the volume. In order to pump up into 950, we need, I think, outsized volume. So we'll have to wait and see what we get there. But 17.6 eluding us right now on the future, so we'll have to wait and see whether we get a curl back up. Let's go back into big tech. Yeah, Amazon just flushed off that 161 touch. Look at Amazon headed down now. So that was that whole dollar rejection again on AMZN in the same way that we had Katina Man when we broke it on 160 on Friday. It was an immediate rejection after that, a Christmas tree retracement. Shout out to the Randy one. Look at this is what I'm talking about over here on AMZN. Pumped up into 160.75, then we basically closed out at 159.11. So we were basically gave up the entire move. Amazon having another good day today where it's pumping up into highs through the whole dollar level, but rejecting 4 now. Yeah, that's basically it. There's not much to talk about here except maybe Tesla. Look, Tesla's had a great day off that headline that the Performance Model 3 is going to be available in China. But it's been stair-stepping down off that news ever since popping through 190 into that 190.90. Lower highs, lower lows, straddling VWAP right now, bouncing off it. VWAP on my charts, 187 1/3. It's been bouncing off VWAP, but I'm not going to buy it here. I personally don't like it here, specifically because of the lower highs and the lower lows. So yeah, great, it's above VWAP at the moment, but for how long, I guess? That's really the question I'm asking. So yeah, I don't have any particular trades. Let's get some of these small cappers because we were talking about these earlier. NYSE and FGen were interesting. So NYSE's now below VWAP at that 950, gave up the ghost. They're at VWAP after initially bouncing off it at 9 3/4. Now we're down to 9 1/3. So at NYSE, rejecting off the top. The one that I like a little bit better for that possible trade that I have called the VWAP hold high of daybreak is FGen. Because this has been bouncing off VWAP every single time it's retracing to VWAP, including the original move up. Like, look at that opening print out. VWAP bounces right back down, bounces right back up. And then even here, when you had about 20 minutes of retracement, about 25 minutes actually, of retracement off that 168 high, it holds VWAP, straddles it. And again, over here at 1220. So if it comes back into VWAP at that 145, 150, or wherever it is at that moment, we'll be looking possibly to get something in here on FGen. You know what I'd really like, on this platform? Like, I can set up alerts, right? So I can say, oh, alert me if it comes into 148. But VWAP is a dynamic indicator. It doesn't stay at a particular level. I'd like for to be able to alert me if it comes into VWAP. You know what I mean? Or a moving average or any other dynamic non-static level. Like, obviously that 144 is a static level.
I like
right?
that, yeah.
But yeah, that would be an interesting little addition there. I wonder if I could actually do that using a method I'm not aware of. But anyway, FGen, interesting. If it comes back into VWAP, we might be interested here for a VWAP hold high of daybreak trade on FGEN up 72%, Adara.
Yeah, that's really cool. Also, the Piper saying Trade Ideas does that, so we will have to check that out.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking at Coinbase again, but I feel like I'm trying not to look at Coinbase. It's like, the forbidden fruit. We had a really nice trade in Coinbase earlier, and then I just kind of messed it up by some ill-thought, ill-conceived trades. I wouldn't even say ill-conceived. I had ideas. I was watching the book. We had, like, basically everywhere that we kind of had, I thought we were kind of bottoming out a little bit or basing out, but I didn't want to say that because it's Coinbase. But it's a pun, so why not? But yeah, we had, anywhere where I thought we had a Scotia support, then we kind of would blow through that support and I'd get out when we made a lower low. So that's what I did here. Here wasn't a lower low. It was just kind of more like we were kind of falling out of that area of consolidation from where I entered. And then it happened again. However, I like this bounce off this 131 and change, this 131.50 area. This is a double bottom. I like this. I like that we've seen higher lows and higher highs after that bounce, after that double bottom. I was trying to get involved in this at that 132.20, and then the buyers were like, no, you're not. And like, we kind of flew out of that point of interest. If we continue to hold decently, or just below that 132.50, I might get in. But I really want to wait until I have a nice, a nice base there, because I want to take profits out at 133 and not a moment later than that. And why I say 133? Look at this area of consolidation earlier. We held 133 after a big move down for about half an hour. And then we have these failed wicks into 133. I am very concerned about Coinbase's ability to do anything above 133. So if I get involved in this, it'll be the shortest term trade that I can muster. And I will be getting out if we make a lower low. Also, shout out to Jay Haas, 20 pun LePage. I really appreciate that. I like the combination of the 21 Savage pun and that it's a pun. I like puns over here. I appreciate that.
You're
thank you very much. The Punisher. Also, thank you. Congrats to Waylon Foxtrot saying, see you all tomorrow. I made my daily goal. Do not know if you're still here. But if you are, and even if you weren't, congrats to you. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Yeah, no, I think this is the kind of an interesting look here on Coinbase. Yeah, some people saying this might not be double bottom, this might be head and shoulders. That's valid too. Like I said, I'm really only interested in this into that 133 because all this consolidation around here makes me nervous other than that. Looks like we're eclipsing that 133, so I will be keeping my eye on it. But Coinbase and I are not besties today, so I'm going to be very cautious. But that's right now is my 2 cents on Coinbase.
Have you seen Dumb Money?
I have not seen Dumb
Neither
Money,
have I. I
really
want to watch it.
That cast it like Vincent D'Onofrio, Paul Dano.
Ram doesn't like any of them, apparently.
Oh, that's why.
She's failing us for not having watched Dumb Money. Well, we lived it. Well, anyway.
I did.
Yeah. Right. Seth Rogen, baby. I mean, I want to watch it because I want to see like how, accurate. Because I was watching. I was like very much involved. I didn't trade any AMC or GME. I just wasn't good enough at the time. But quite frankly, I was really involved, watching it all the time, watching how CNBC was covering it, and all like guys, you don't know what you're doing. This is all going to go to the bottom. You guys are all going to get rinsed. The whole institutional retailer dichotomy back then. So I want to see how it's reflected. So I don't know where can I watch that? Is it?
I thought it was somewhere. Someone was telling me it was somewhere, but I don't know where that was.
Yeah, no, it depends on what streaming service, right? Say that again, Neil. Yeah. It's on Prime. Oh, perfect, fantastic. I have Prime.
I'm gonna watch that. Then.
Yeah, amazing. It's on Amazon Prime. Oh, people are saying it's on Netflix. Well, maybe it might be in Netflix in the States. It might not be here. I have Netflix app right here. Let's find out, baby. Is it available on Netflix in Canada? We're gonna find out very soon. Shout out to Mom and Pop Gabriel for financing the Netflix over here. All right, so Dumb Money. No, it is not.
Is it on Prime?
It probably is on Prime. And Neil says it's on Prime, so let's find out. I have my Prime account over here. That one I actually pay for.
Oh, it's added to Netflix in the U.S.
It is, yeah. That's what I'm thinking. It's always a little different what they have over there versus what we have over here. Gonna check Prime Video if it loads anytime. Start.
Prime Video is really finicky.
Yeah, it's actually really, but it's good because it has unsolved mysteries, right? So that's
it has all the Law and Orders at some points. they rotate them in and out.
Yes, Dumb Money is on here, guys. So this one you can watch with Prime. You don't have to rent. And I'm about to get stopped out here of Meta, and that's the end of the Meta trade. So we lose on that Meta trade, doesn't end up holding 400. Sucks to be me. We're red now on the day as a result of this Meta trade after having a huge trade on Tesla. We go red though, and that's what trading is all about. So we get that breakdown of Meta at 400. Let's see if this is a bamboozling trade and whether it gets bought right back up, especially because we were right back at 17.6. So interesting here. We end up giving back our profits today on Tesla vis-a-vis Meta, and that's just, gonna have to deal with that, but maybe it's not all over if we can get a move bounce through that level. But yeah, out on Meta. What is everybody else looking at? Yes, GC. We talked about Lucid earlier on. Big, huge day on Lucid today. Almost 21% for Lucid. What is going on over here? My goodness. Let's have a look at LCID because when we looked at it, it was in the 15 some odd percent. This is the daily on Lucid. No, do not be alarmed. Don't be alarmed. Yeah, you should be. It was a tongue-in-cheek expression, Neil,
Don't be alarmed.
because anybody looking at this particular stock knows that it's a big boy downtrend. Let's look at the 5-minute here on LCID. It is holding sideways here, breaking above that 20 period, which is the yellow line on my chart. We'll see if we get that continuation on Lucid. Let's see where VWAP is at, because I took this off for a minute here. So yeah, we're a smidge above VWAP. Not bad. Putting in those higher lows, higher highs. Eventually, though, you're going to need to have a 3.25 break to kind of test that 340 high on Lucid. Nothing for me, though, right now.
Yeah, I'm just laughing at Neil in the chat when your chart looks like a weed name. Calling out Lucid over here. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Like they'll kind of go to downtrend and have one nice pop up and then slump. So I think that's an interesting look on that one. Trying to get back into Stressla. I mean, not Stressla for Sharif, Besla for Sharif. So we're going to use that. It hasn't even really been Stressla for me either today. But yeah, I mean, it is. Basically, I like Tesla because we're still making these lower highs, lower lows. I really like this to take out some profits at that 187.40 should I get it. I'm talking like I'm already in this trade, which I am not. And if we make the decisive higher high, specifically I'm going to be watching what we do at 188, then I will have to reevaluate and exit the trade. I just got in. We are officially in the Cybertruck. Hopefully Tesla will continue Cybertrucking to the downside. I regret saying the word hope because I'm not taking hopium here. I'm really just looking at the pattern, right? I'm really just looking at these lower highs and these lower lows, and that's what I like here. Some people mentioning mRNA, including Joanna Brewster, including Ian David. Let me pull up MR to the N and the A. Yeah, not seeing anything. Are you seeing anything on Moderna on your end?
Sure, I'll have a look. See if there's anything on the blotter over here. Nothing today, sadly. Nothing on mRNA. It's up only 0.78, so it's not really moving too aggressively.
I'm gonna look at the chart and kind of see what we're doing. Also, I'm seeing. Oh, we actually did get a move up here. It looks like we're up like 3, and
Moderna?
yeah.
Oh, this is wrong. Then it's telling me 0.78. So let me just.
I feel like some of the like the news blotters are like.
Telling you, I had to redo my my Moderna. Yeah, it's up 3.82%. So silly. Just because it doesn't update automatically. So unless I'm on the ticker, it doesn't update. That's why I was putting together my re-putting my layout together because of that specifically.
Yeah, no, this is Moderna making a really nice push to the upside story. We're still not seeing any news on this. No, but I think the really nice kind of slow stair step. Then the second hour of the How to Trade show, we got the name right, so proud of myself. Make this nice move up, then we fall back down, make a new higher high. Congrats to anyone getting this injection to the market here with Moderna. Really nice move to the upside. Also, I have to talk about Tesla because we did hop into the Cybertruck, but I'm wondering if I may have made a mistake here, and I say that because this VWAP bounce, I should have been more cognizant of the fact we did bounce off VWAP instead of the general lower highs, lower lows. As I say that, we would keep rejecting off that 188, and I think that 188 rejection may be stronger than the fact that we're at VWAP. Because like I said, VWAP is not always gonna matter with every stock, but really I'm wondering if I just shouldn't have been more careful getting into it. Because also look what we had earlier. We had this bounce at this 187, kind of the same area, and then we bounced again. So I think in this case, I should have pulled a Neil and when in doubt, zoom out. That advice is very good and exists for a reason. And I probably should have been more cognizant of that instead of just looking at, oh, we're in this nice little downtrend. That being said, I'm interested in taking profits at VWAP anyway at this, that 187.30 area. That would be a 50 simulator penny winner there. So I think that will be, that's still of interest. Also, I wish I had something to report on Square. I don't. We're still in it. And we have not decisively broken that 6890, 69, or sorry, 6780, or sorry, 6790, 68. That's what I was looking for. Area. We're still chopping and churning around here. This consolidation making me a skosh nervous, especially with that inverse head and shoulders pattern kind of forming. But until we have that break, I'm going to stay in this trade. I'm trying to be more patient in my trades. And as Sharif would say, the trade is still valid. So we're going to stick with that. I am now 5 simulator pennies in the money in Tesla, that Cybertruck careening down the highway towards VWAP. So
Brendo
really keep an
saw
eye
a
on that.
Cybertruck last week.
Yeah, I remember that being mentioned.
I still haven't seen it like live in living color, other than
in the
you know,
flesh, in the wild.
Yeah, in the wild. I saw it like in the mall, which doesn't count. But I still haven't seen a Cybertruck in the wild. It'd be interesting to see it moving on.
Yeah, I remember they talked about that in the market podcast as well. Check out the podcast because Sean and Brendan did discuss Brendan's Cybertruck's sighting at one point in that podcast. Yeah,
I like it. Okay.
So definitely.
Katina, man, I got a business to run, bro. All right. Guys, I just took 17.6. 17.6. Big Kyle Burdett pointing out an interesting look here. How many times are we going to wick into 17.6, guys, only to reject? So I feel like we're doing like a bit of a wick dance with no pants here at that level. So let's see what we get. We lost on that trade on Meta. I'm disappointed in myself. Yeah, because I like this is a bad trade for me. Let's be honest with it. Look at that entry. I mean, that's as bad of an entry as you can get. And then we averaged in once, twice over here, and then we got rinsed on that big move down. We had to draw the line somewhere. So we'll see what Meta does the rest of the day. But right now, I feel like the future can't really print above that 17.6 at the moment, despite the fact it put in a few higher lows, but the lower highs are really kind of what's standing out at me, and the rejection off 17.6. This touches 17.610, I'm out. So we'll have to wait and see what we get there. But you got the likes of Apple starting to curl back up, even though it's awfully weak on, I don't even know what the hell the reason is Apple is weak today, but the point is we've been kind of incrementally trending up here, even though if it's, you know, just pennies at a time, 191.30, 33 here, and this is the highest we've been essentially since 9:40 a.m. on Apple. So it's been a bit of a weak day for some of these names. Even Softy kind of consolidated at 407 at the moment. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm trying to, if this one, again, if the future breaks above 17.610, that's the end of the trade, but we're going to see if we can get a 17.6 rejection on the future. Andrew Ditter, I'm in Austin and never seen a Cybertruck in the wild. I have seen some okay, I'm not reading that part out loud, but that is cool. Cool, that's nice. What else we got here? Chill vibes, seeing a Cybertruck is like seeing Bigfoot. I don't know about that, but sure. I guess they're both equally as rare. The Skippies 8 Apple has 2 broken legs, but it has been carrying me up a mountain. I like that. I don't know.
I like that.
That's cool. Okay. Need to moon some money for the Cyber Beast. Yeah. Well, that's the expensive one. Papa Limes.
I like that name.
Are you primarily using pivot points for the future, or do you use them elsewhere too? Rarely do I use pivots for the future. I will see, you know, if they're a confirmatory indicator, but what I'm really always looking for is key support and resistance, whether that's the 100-point level or the previous day's close or previous close in general. That's typically what I look at for the futures trade. But right now, it looks as if this one might go against me as well. We may go more negative on the day as we're starting to curl back up here on a lot of names. NVIDIA's curling. Apple is curling a little bit. Google's curling. Ram, if we could show the chart. Microsoft's not curling in the traditional sense of curling, but NVIDIA's curling, Apple's curling, and you're getting a bit of a curl here right now on Google as well. Well, it's near high, so we'll see. We'll see what this trade brings. About 20 minutes left on the show. Adara, what are you looking at over there?
I can't believe this show has flown by. What a day, what a Monday. Been involved in lots of trades today with mixed levels of productivity, I'll put it that way. We did discuss some of the mixed Coinbase vibes going on here. I did have a successful NVIDIA trade, just taking that push up into 617, getting out a little bit before 617. Now we're pushing back higher to 617. I should have paid more attention to this VWAP bounce because as we always say, VWAP's not always going to come into, it's not always going to be of importance, but here, this really clean bounce off VWAP for NVIDIA is something to marvel. It's something to have your eye on and be like, oh my gosh, look at this move up. We did break that kind of a hard to break earlier area just below the 617. Holy cow, 617 NVIDIA with a viciousness. I'm going to move away from this so I stop sounding like an auctioneer. But I will say, let's watch NVIDIA coming into that 618 area. I believe KC in the chat earlier was mentioning this NVIDIA 617 break for quite some time. Congrats to you if you are in this trade, because what a beaut.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, an old man here just called this trade a beaut, but this is a really nice look here on NVIDIA. I like this look here. Let's look at Willis Addison. Thank you so much for your super chat, Willis Addison. Oh goodness, coin. These Friday swing calls, ripping, prayer hand emoji, money bag emoji. So let's look at coin. And thank you for bringing up coin earlier, because that kind of made me look into coin, and you know that it did end up working out. Okay, I like this. So coin, like I said, I thought coin and that bounce, that double bottom-ish area off that 131.50 was of interest. Some people were pointing out as well, which I think is of note, like, hey, this could be a head and shoulders. You know, I want to participate, not anticipate. I would say, you know, that could be worth noting. So I would say just keep an eye at that 134 area and see what we do. Keep in mind the shoulders will not always be the same, but I think that would be an area to keep in mind on. Then if we do see that rejection of that 134, my next area of interest would be, what do we do with that 131.50 again? Because as we talked about during pattern week, to really see confirmation of the head and shoulders, you do need to break below the neckline. So I would just say that's some food for thought there. But until otherwise noted, we are up 6.5% of the day, or 6.5+% of the day. I think just generally keeping an eye on potential patterns and things that may occur here. Also, just an update on my trades. Tesla's slightly breaking above that 188, but not with the viciousness. I'm not going to get out on this trade. I really need to see like kind of a little bit more strength at this 188, because we have not really held it with any vigor. That being said, the decisive break around that 188.20, 188.30, I will be keeping an eye on this. Really small position in the sim as I learn and grow. Rich note in PB, Adara may want to get off the Tesla tracks. Yeah, I am considering it, I have to say. But like I said, we have not made a new higher high yet. And our ability to claim anything above that 188 has not been of a swiftness or of a viciousness yet. That will probably change. I do have my eye on it. Andrew Ditter, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Can we have a look at a VRT over 6-month daily VRT? Let me look at, I have the wrong ticker, VRT, and Y. Okay, I mean, this is a nice look. I'm going to look at it in the daily, but also I just want to talk about this bull flag breakout on the intraday, because holy cow. This big move up that 53.40, nice little pennant here because we did that triangular action. Big move up, really nice look here on that daily, or the intraday, but let's look at the daily chart. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say beyond really strong upper trend, I have to tell you. That nice move, this is, I guess, sort of an initiation gap. It's a little bit hard to tell with the lines here, but I think we had a bit of a consolidation for quite some time. Initiation gap here with a lot of volume on August 2nd, 2023. I like this look. What is VRT? I need to learn more. Vertiv Holdings.
NVIDIA's pumping.
Pardon?
NVIDIA's pumping here.
Oh my gosh, NVIDIA is pumping. NVIDIA trying to break 618.
Yes, it is. Just in time for me to get short on the futures. Perfect timing. We're right back up 17.6, and I'm really worried about this trade. I got to tell you, because we're curling here, right? Remember Michael Noss? Today, buy the smiley face, sell the frowny face. We were doing that wick dance with 17.6. We weren't really able to stay above there. Now it looks like as the buyers are incrementally overwhelming sellers on every little subsequent 5-minute candle. And so look at this, right? Bit of a curl effect here on the future. Do we decisively take 17.6? If you're looking at some of these Mag 7 names as possibly indicating what we're going to do, look no farther than Meta, who's now reclaimed 400 again, but for how long? The trade that's really making me, that's really putting me on guard is NVIDIA. I mean, we were just at 615, now we shot up into that 618, 20-ish level. We're about below 618 right now, but for how long? Do we reject off here and come back down into VWAP? I mean, I have no idea. we'll have to wait and see. We're only like a point out of the money right now on the future. We're getting another 17.6 touch, but another rejection. What concerns me about this futures trade is we haven't seen a lower low since this candle over here at 110. We have not put in a 5-minute candle to make a new low for almost now 40 minutes, okay? So incrementally, buyers have been stepping up, making a higher low, higher low, higher low, but accumulating at 17.6. So unless we really reject here with the swiftness or with the aggression, then I don't know. I think this is going to be another losing trade for me. And Apple, it continues to incrementally move up at that 191 1/3. But look at Amazon. This is all the trouble right now on AMZN, dipping below that 20 period and 10 period moving average, possibly coming into 160 here at the 50 on the 5. So we'll wait and see. Great double bottom today on Amazon though at 159, giving you $2 into that 161. So a lot of unanswered questions, about 12 minutes left on the show. We'll have to see what we get here on the futures. The only trade that I have on at the moment. Meta's back above 400. Apple's curling. Nvidia's pumping at 618. So some trouble in paradise for me here if we continue to move up on the future, because if these names start moving, the future is going to move too to the high side, and I need to worry about that. Softy's quite consolidated, but it's above VWAP with that 407.5 top. Google's curling into highs, not surprised there, but kind of a bull flag here on Google, looking to move into highs. What's Kyle saying over here? We are anticipating not participating. That's how best shorts work. Hold tight to your stop. I already got my stop in place, big Kyle Burdett. It's that break of that 610 area. I won't say exactly where, but it's a break of that level. So unless we decisively break that 610 level, I'll be involved in this trade. But the only one coming down here on the Mag 7 names right now, curling down and not pointing up, is Amazon. Everything else is curling to the high side, or at least pointing to the high side. The future not able to take 17.6 quite yet though, but who knows for how long. Let's check some of these small cap gappers that we were talking about earlier. We had Pally, we had Nexi, FGen. There was this other one here, SoFi. Yeah, SoFi I already know about. RVSN is the other one. Nothing really breaking out with any vigor. FGen still above that VWAP, so possibly a good VWAP hold high of daybreak there. And RVSN just continues to print. This has been the swing trade of a lifetime if you're into swinging small cap gappers, because look at this hourly on RVSN, guys. Really starting its life back on January 16th, and at the time it was like $1.50. Now we just touched $17.69. So great trade for whoever was holding that bad boy along. But yeah, the only trade we've got on at the moment, NQ short.
Yeah, I mean, that is certainly, yeah, it's been, I see what you, because we did have those lower highs on the NQ, right? So it's definitely a look here. Let's hope we do the shimmy wick dance in the right direction here for you.
Ooh, right
shout
back
out
down
to Shaq. Also, looks like a beak wetter is maybe.
Hopefully, I'm going to set up the profit taker beak wetter. You know how I roll, Adara,
Yeah.
but yeah, right now, still definitely a lot of trouble in paradise here.
Nice, yeah. I honestly, I cannot believe we have. I feel like this midday has flown by. I also just one last check for that Andrew Ditter super chat. Thank you so much on VRT.
Andrew.
I just wanted to point out. I looked at the monthly chart. I had an issue pulling up the 6 month with my chart shut down, but I have the monthly chart pulled up here. I like this $8 bounce. I think all in all I have to say is fantastic look. Fantastic look. This initiation gap too on the monthly is kind of interesting. I can't even really say it's initiation because we're just kind of continuing this trend, but really nice upward movement for VRT. It does not look like it wants to slow down. And congrats to you. I'm assuming you are in this trade. So what a look here. Also, I got out of Square, AKA one of the least interesting shorts that a person could be in. I wish Square had dumped it while I was in it. I mean,
Sorry.
To be fair, no, it's okay. I'm joking. I'm joking. To be fair, I stayed in this as long as I did because we didn't really have any reason to leave. We started creeping heavily towards that 68, and I left. I did lose on this trade a little bit. My timing was just wrong. I have to admit, getting into the VWAP bounce was not the smartest thing I've ever done, and probably a little bit of FOMO because I got out of the short a little bit too early earlier. So I think in general, just going to learn from this trade. Not my best moment, but I'm just going to shout out to Jay-Z, dirt off the shoulders. Going to pass it off. Keep on going. Yeah, there we go. Because I mean, I'm not going to learn anything by dwelling on how badly this went. All I'm going to learn is maybe be cognizant of that VWAP bounce, Adara, and don't do that with your life. And speaking of which, Tesla also bouncing off VWAP. Sorry.
Yeah, no, are you? Yeah, I know. Everything's bouncing now. I mean, we're getting a hammer candle here on the futures concerning me. All right, if you're not too busy, could we just do a quick recap of initiation gaps? Unless you're focusing on your trade, in which case we can do that after. I just want to ask what you absorbed from the lesson today. If you were to see an initiation gap, what are you looking for right away?
Yeah, for sure. So what I would be looking for is what is the extent of the gap? Is it a giant gap?
Yep.
And then also what I'd be looking for is volume. How much volume has accompanied that gap? And not just today, but compared to other volume.
Good.
Is this like a really outsized day for volume for the stock? Or is it a meh kind of day for volume? That's what I'm looking for.
Fantastic.
Then I also want to know, what is the momentum of this move upwards? Did we have this big gap up and then we just kind of petered out? Did we small cap gap it? Or did we big boy gap it, to use a Sharifism a little bit there? I really want to know the extent of that gap. Then I also want to see what we do after that. So a couple days later, do we have any other movement? Then let's say we had this gap up on Monday, and then on Wednesday, we're hanging out near VWAP. We're doing an interesting bounce. We're looking to continue this move. I want to look at maybe some confluence intraday with what we had on that gap. I want to see how it's shaking. I don't want to make a big immediate movement in, like, say, a swing or a long-term trade just because we had a gap up. I want to see other movement. I want to see confluence.
And if I can add one thing, I think you covered all the bases there, for the exception of one. Is it breaking out through a key resistance level, like a horizontal $500 level, or an upward channel, a downward channel, whatever the resistance level is it breaking through it? And if it's breaking through it by, what margin? Is it just a slight break, or is it a decided break? The one that we gave you an example of, obviously, was that Amazon 2017, 2018 price chart. Adara had it, I had it, and you had a decided break through the upward channel there. Shout out to you, Adara. Nice call on that. We're still holding this future short here, as I think Amazon's really tanking. Tesla's bouncing though, so some contrary indicators there. Nvidia still a smidge below 618. It's awfully strong as well. Big Kyle Burdett says NQ 30-minute. We had a hanging man. Now we follow with the move down. All right, my man. I'm still involved in this bad boy, and the beak wetter is already there at 95.25. So we'll see what we get on that move down. If we get a move down, we'll have to wait and see. Pack our patience for that. We're in the money on it, but we're not taking any profits here. If you guys have any questions or comments for Adara and I in the chat, whether it's about a specific name or you want to know anything about the lesson today, throw it up in the chat. I want to let you know that we're going to be talking about gaps all week. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about continuation gaps. And these gaps are found in the middle of the move. So what starts the move is the initiation gap and all the characteristics that come along with that today. We talked about that today. Tomorrow we'll be talking about the continuation gap, something that's found mid-move, in the move up, and how to play that, what to look for, and all the other details about it. So make sure to tune in tomorrow with Adara and I, where we will be talking about gaps the rest of the week. Big Mike, thoughts on AMD? AMD, look, it's a monster stock. Adara, when is it reporting again?
Tomorrow after close.
So AMD reporting, so make sure you're with us tomorrow. But look, on the day, it's weaker on the day today, if I could say that. We've been rejecting off yesterday or Friday's closing print. Let me show you where that is. This is the closing print from last Friday, and when we bounced into that 177.25 level, we rejected with the swiftness, as Adara likes to say, down back into 175.5 over here. So we'll have to wait and see what AMD does the rest of the day. But I would say, look, AMD is going to be in play all week after tomorrow, Adara, because we will be getting earnings tomorrow at 4 p.m. And then we know what's going to happen from there. There's going to be an earnings call. There's going to be announcements. And there's going to be all sorts of big money positioning, which is going to create the volatility on this name. Pack your patience. AMD is going to be in play all week.
Can I pontificate on AMD for a moment?
I love it. Go.
I like these. Look at this kind of flattish bottom in the lower highs.
Where am I looking?
I just think,
Yeah.
here. So we have this
This over here?
175 bottom, and then we come to the bottom again, and we have lower highs.
Absolutely, bang.
I just wanted to.
So that's basically the IB low, because this excludes pre-market action.
okay.
That's the IB low from Friday, and we had almost the same IB low today. So good call on that. The only thing though, Adara, would you say you see a succession of lower highs? High.
I was going to say, yeah, I think so.
High. Yep. Flat bottom break.
And then we have that high.
Neil's waving at me.
Hi.
Right?
Oh yeah, hi.
Hello.
I get it. Says hi. Hi, Neil. Also, Neil, in the chat. Yeah, I was gonna say pack. Yeah. Don't want to be a hungry.
You don't want to be
trader.
hangry, right?
No, and I feel like being hungry does impact your trading. Like this is a real thing, where it's like your brain. It impacts your brain, so of course it's going to impact your trading because you do need your brain to be on when you are trading. Although I will admit I made some not the smartest trades today, but all we can do is learn. Maybe I was. Maybe I was.
Okay.
Maybe I needed to pack patience in that Samsonite along with my patience, or sorry, pack snacks with my patience there.
Adara, I wet my beak there on the dip, so it filled. My trigger did fill. You know, I'm still right on the day. All right, quite frankly, still. Oh no, I'm back to Greensville. Oh my God, back to Greensville, but I was in Redsville vis-a-vis Meta. So we're gonna have to wait and see whether we can continue to print because we gave back everything. Literally, we gave back almost everything on that Meta trade, on that Tesla trade, because of Meta. So it'd be great if we could print on this down move here. But I feel like the buyers are stepping in and boosting, you know, the future. These Mag 7 names on the dips. We're quite consolidative south of 17.6. We're not really rejecting off it, even though the wicking dance was quite clear. We couldn't hold 17.6. We were wicking into it from the south side and rejecting it, but we're not getting that big boy move down. And that's the reality of the situation. So we'll have to wait and see. About a minute left, Adara, on the show before we send it up to Brendo and the big kahunas who will be taking over and taking us through Power Hour.
Yeah, let's power up for Power Hour. For now, I will lament once more about Tesla. Like I said, you know, as Neil says, when in doubt, zoom out. I should have zoomed out and seen that. Although we did have these lower highs and lower lows, we also did have a VWAP bounce, and I should not have gotten involved in a short here. That being said, my area of interest for Tesla, still that 188.40, 188.50 area. I got out because we did make a move around 188.40, but really, to what extent? We're now still just bouncing around 188.40, 188.50. I would keep an eye on this level. Take that for what you will. You can take that with a grain of salt, with a grain of electron, with, you know, a grain of Model Y, but I do think this area could be of interest, and that would be my area. A lot of people in the chat saying, where's Tesla going to end up? I think Tesla needs to you know, figure out its life at this area first, because we've been consolidating here for an hour and a half, which in Tesla terms is a pretty long time for Tesla to be in this range. I would that'd be some food for thought there, but it is 2 p.m. Thank you so much to everybody. Thank you to Bears versus Bulls, everybody in the chat. We will see you tomorrow at the same bad time and the same bad channel for some more gaps. But for now,
Hey guys, yeah, 2 o'clock on a Monday afternoon here. Let's get back into the last 2 hours of a trading session that's turning into a bit of a choppy one across the board. Let's be honest.